All right, and we are live. Hello, Internet. Welcome once again to a casual Lorecast. We're in number 26 this week, which is crazy. We've been doing this for a while now, one every week through the Dream Sleep Facebook group and Discord channel. So, if you're watching this, you already know who I am. I'm Andrew, also known as the White Guar, and we've got a couple new folks today. I've known these guys for a while now, but it's the first time that they've joined us here. So we've got Connor over to whichever direction he is, and Edmund. And so before we started the stream, we were talking about. There was a post in Tesla in the subreddit that was made about whether it's necessary to understand the deeper esoteric aspects of the lore when dealing with Elder Scrolls lore in general. Is it required to know all the crazy, the Kim and Mantling and the Walking Ways and this, that, and the other thing? Do you need to know that to enjoy the lore? And there was some good discussion in there, but I want to get some opinions from some of you folks who are in here now. Connor, it sounded like you had something that you wanted to expand on with that thread.
Yeah, hold on. Let me pop open my Reddit response just so I. Okay, so I kind of did this as, a hot take. I do believe this to an extent, but I kind of went for an extreme version just because I didn't see anyone going in that direction. I very much believe that you need to have at least some working understanding of the more metaphysical aspects of the lore to have a really accurate understanding on pretty much just how the lore in the series works in general. Because honestly, especially in the earlier games, not so much maybe Skyrim, but like definitely Morrowind, Daggerfall, Arena, Oblivion, especially Oblivion. But it's really just deeply interwoven into just even the more generic plots. And the example I went with was, of course, the Dwemer, who, they're different dwarves. Let's be real. They're slightly different from your regular dwarves in that they're technically elves, and they're not drunks, but they're underground technologists. It's pretty mundane stuff for a dwarf in fantasy. However, you understand the metaphysics, well, you really get much more of a better view on how the dwarves function and why they function. You get so basically dwarves they're mer, so they're basically their whole thing is they want a reversion to a prior stronger state or a return to a stronger state, as opposed to men who have the more Lorcanic urges of like further revision, Kime, all that nice stuff. I'm being a little bit generic, of course. Sorry, and I'm rambling.
Oh, it's fine. That's what we're here for.
You're fine. This stuff is really, really deep stuff to get into.
Yeah.
I mean, they're called the deep elves, right?
So
They're
yeah,
the deep elves.
Okay, I think I got my train back. Sorry. So the deep elves, like I'm going. If you understand the metaphysics, you understand the difference between man and mer and how they view this world, and how like the deep elves are different from regular elves in that they don't just necessarily want to return to a stronger point. They want to possibly become stronger than they've been. They know how to alter the world through their tonal architecture, and you kind of need to understand how metaphysics works to understand why tonal architecture isn't just, oh look, it's magic by another name. You really need to understand the dream nature of the world to understand how the song can be altered and such. And then you really, really, really need to have an understanding of metaphysics to understand at least even parts of their disappearance. Like, and like how the Numidium functions. And so basically, that was just my go-to example for how even generic lore of a single race is so intertwined with this deep stuff. You could definitely go to the Bosmeri, for example, and how they're not allowed to eat meat and stuff. What else? Khajiit and their very unique creation story and the implication it has on just the creation, because they're kind of like a third-party look at the Man-Mer, whatchamacallit. So yeah, that's my take. Basically, you do need metaphysics to understand the more generic lore, at least to understand it better than, oh, history's happening. It helps you
Right.
understand the urges that dictate why people function.
Your motivations.
There you
Yeah.
go, motivations.
And so it sounded like Ed, you had a counterpoint to make. What do
Yeah.
what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, while I would agree that, like, if you want to actually understand about, like, the deeper stuff, like the Dwemer, for example, if you want to understand their disappearance, a knowledge of deeper lore is necessary. I don't think it's entirely necessary. I mean, I started playing Elder Scrolls with Morrowind, and I had no idea about any of the deeper lore at the time, and it absolutely did not like impede my enjoyment of the game or anything. You know, to be honest, it wasn't until Oblivion that I actually started looking at the deeper lore. And Oblivion was the game that I enjoyed the least out of all of the ones that I played. So I think it depends why you play Elder Scrolls. If you play Elder Scrolls because it's an RPG game and you want to play an RPG game, you don't really need to understand the deeper lore. But if you want to actually play Elder Scrolls because it's Elder Scrolls and because you love Elder Scrolls, then yes, the deeper lore is necessary. So I think it's kind of a balance of the two rather than one or the other. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something I've always thought is when it comes to the Elder Scrolls, there's something for everybody, right? Whether you're into surface presentations and hey, here's elves, here's dwarves, here's dragons, that's my shit. Well, awesome, great. Let that be your thing. If you just want to play the game, you want to go through the story, and then you want to move on, awesome. You have the ability to do that. But if you want to get more into the esoterics, the metaphysics and things, that is available for you to explore, and that opens up, in my opinion, a much wider world of what it is to be the Elder Scrolls, right? And so, I mean, when it comes to whether it's necessary, that's really the question, isn't it? How do we determine what's necessary? I mean, are we talking about the enjoyment of the games? Because I don't think you don't need to understand Kim and mantling and tonal architecture and the calling and the Sigix 11 forces. Like you don't need to know those things to enjoy the game, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, something I say on occasion is that Skyrim is a great game, fantastic action game. It's got RPG elements. Like it's an awesome game. I don't think it's a great Elder Scrolls game, because what Elder Scrolls means to me is this esotericism and the deep philosophical conversations that are lurking under the surface. Those are what I'm here for, right? And Skyrim only delivers a smattering of those. We don't get really a smorgasbord of conflicting ideas and I mean, people will argue with me and say, "Oh, well, the Imperial view versus the Thalmor view." Well, that's not deep enough for me, right?
That's just
Why?
political.
Yeah. That's just in universe politics. That's
Plus, like they pretty clearly represent the Thalmor
Yeah,
as at
that's a
least
fraction of
bad.
anthropology.
yeah. I mean, the Thalmor are represented as an enemy, and if you're going to make it that clear cut, that's again, that's boring, and maybe that's a current pop culture trend right now, having the relatable villain, right? Thanos. If you've ever seen Daredevil on Netflix, Kingpin.
Of course.
Uh,
Wilson Fisk.
yeah.
Classic.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're these villains that you relate to them and you understand with them and you empathize with them, and that makes them so much more compelling, right? Um, and so that's maybe that's why me and people like me are expecting so much more from a story. I don't want good guys and bad guys. I want I want two people who I can relate to and I can understand their points of view, and then I want to watch as this chemical combination comes together to create something else.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see in a story. But we're not necessarily talking about the story. We're talking about the deeper stuff, right? The things that lurk behind the surface and aren't as clear cut. So necessary, maybe not, but for those who take the time to explore that, I think there's something to be said for the enjoyment you can gain doing that.
I have to admit, I do agree about the whole Skyrim
The game.
isn't a very good Elder Scrolls game. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I was so hyped for Skyrim.
Oh, dude, me too.
But that wasn't because it wasn't primarily because it was a new Elder Scrolls game. It was because of the dragons.
Yeah.
The live action trailer, I still get chills when I watch that.
I mean, that was a major.
So epic.
Yeah, that was a major selling point for them. And in no game up to that point had we had a system where we could fight dynamic dragons and have these epic fights that are, I mean, they're practically randomly generated. Like,
Yeah.
it's, and it's
Radiant.
this big epic thing, and you get to feel like a badass while you're doing it. I mean, that was kind of a new thing. And I mean, part of my main criticism with Skyrim and really the Elder Scrolls post Morrowind is that the Elder Scrolls has a habit of kind of piggybacking off of other trends, right? Yeah. It's one thing to have like the relatable villain trope. I feel like that's on a different level, but Oblivion came out at a time that the Lord of the Rings movies were very popular.
Oh boy, yeah.
And so Oblivion was tailored in such a way to kind of trail that hype, right? And Todd Howard, I'm pretty sure he said as much, that they wanted to roll off of that hype, and people are into this right now, so let's do something similar. So those people come over here. For Skyrim, it was Game of Thrones. We got the gritty, just dirty. Everything's kind of a shade of gray and brown.
Gray.
Lots of death and dismemberment, and maybe a little darker.
Oh yeah, and don't get attached.
Don't get attached to people.
I mean, another thing about Skyrim as well is like I always felt like they only put the dragons in Skyrim because of the popularity of the Dragon Mount mod from Oblivion. It's like it was a great mod for Oblivion. Like, don't then take that and build an entire game around it.
Yeah, but
which is what it always felt like they did.
Yeah, and so I mean, when we have these games that are influenced so much by these other forms of fantasy, then it starts to become disingenuous, right? And
well, I mean, there are things that you can do to create frame narratives, satirical narratives. You can flip an idea on its head. There's many different things that you can do when you're reinterpreting source material. So I feel like if you just shift the authorial style, you're able to really contain that pretty well, especially in any kind of narrative that uses the multiverse as, a sort of hub. You're able to draw from everything. However, there is, as you said, that issue of piggybacking. There is a certain point where it has to hold its own weight. It has to have enough strength to push all of that stuff that it's trying to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like
a lot of people. Go ahead.
I think we're at a point, or rather, the Elder Scrolls is at a point where they don't need to piggyback off of something else. They've climbed their way up by piggybacking, perhaps, to where they are a major trendsetter in a genre. And so when we kind of think about, we were talking earlier about how Kirkbride had mentioned on Facebook that he wants to get weird again. Well, that's exciting for me because it sounds to me like he wants to get back into the Elder Scrolls. And if the Elder Scrolls is at a point where it can do its own thing, it can take risks, it can set new trends.
Yes. Water is
Kirkbride's
memory
perfect for that. Yeah,
I'm
and I
just
mean,
saying that
and,
ESO is down a writer right now. That's all I'm saying.
well, yeah, oh, they are, yeah. And I mean, ESO has been doing fantastic with its direction, and I mean, MMO is going to have a little more freedom with that, but excuse me, as far as the franchise itself, I'm expecting this next. Well, I'm expecting this next game really to throw some interesting stuff at us. Because I mean, what else can they piggyback off of? I mean, what's
it's either going to be
popular right
Elven
now?
or Yokuden. Like
I mean,
so much interest to come from both of those worlds,
Yeah.
whether it's magic or whether it's this person's from a continent originally. This is a reincarnated spirit. The plot line that would deal with that would have to be on a different level than just Norse hero rises from the cold. It's a bit less bare bones than that from the structure of the environment itself, which seems to be at war with itself. I think maybe there might be a culmination with the Thalmor in the next game just from the artistic direction of all the yellow I'm seeing inside of it. But I might be getting ahead of myself. But aren't we all? I mean,
Yeah, I think it's a little too early to actually speculate
shouldn't
what
we?
it's going to be because
yeah.
they haven't really even started production on it yet.
I mean, they know where it's going to be. They know that they have a rough idea of what the plot is. Last I heard, and I only know that because I know people who know people, and I mean when pressed for sources, I have to back down because I don't want to get anyone in trouble. So
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm going to opt not to tell my source. But I have it on pretty good authority that we know where it's going to be. It's going to be Hammerfell.
Yes.
And
yes. Awesome.
and that's
I'm ready.
And I think that'll open us up to maybe we'll look closer at the Ansei. Maybe we'll the Hunding maybe will make a return. Some stuff with Ebon Arm. I'm hoping they can kind of patch up the disparity between Daggerfall and post Daggerfall lore, and the Ebon Arm kind of slipped through the cracks there. But anyway,
Cyrus might be making an appearance somehow.
I doubt it because if we're keeping up with the chronology, if we're keeping up with the chronology, Cyrus was alive at the time that Tiber Septim was, and that was 600 years ago. So probably not.
We'll probably hear about
Cyrus is something.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
What's that, Connor?
He is also Cyrus, and his feats are kind of out there. So
I mean,
it's to me, it doesn't feel off that he'd be there, but at the same time, I definitely see that he would not be there as well.
Yeah,
I see it as a possibility. But probably not.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what I was gonna say. And I mean, Cyrus has been such a huge character in the early years of the Elder Scrolls. They were gonna make a comic book series based on him, and that's where we get that's where we get House Drez with giant bees. That's where that comes from. It's from there was some cover art.
Oh, let's go to Thorn, everybody.
Yeah. So giant bees. I've got some headcanons surrounding that, but I don't want to get into that. Okay, so let's move on. As is tradition in the casual Lorecast, or Lorechat, excuse me, is when we have newer folks in here who haven't been on one of these before, we prioritize their questions or their preferred discussion topics. So Connor and Edmund, you guys are this is your first time being here, so if there's something you guys want to talk about, a burning question, um, any kind of discussion that you want to push to the forefront, the floor is yours. So I mean, Connor, you've talked a bit already. I'm gonna give Edmund the first shot, and then after we've exhausted that, then Connor, I'll give you the opportunity to ask something. Um, so Edmund, is there anything that you want to discuss?
Well, I suppose my main interest at the moment, kind of, and it's mainly apocryphal, or however you pronounce it. Apologies. Is kind of it's necromancy, but specifically Namira necromancy. I
Yeah.
mean, you guys you'll have seen me talking about it loads,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
like kind of the difference between the domination aspect that comes from with traditional necromancy, which is associated with Molag Bal, to kind of the decay aspect of it, which would come from Namira, and kind of like how exactly would a Namira necromancer go about reanimating a corpse? Would they even reanimate the corpse, or would they just kind of control the bacteria that's causing the corpse to
Yeah.
decay and those kind of things, you know?
Yeah.
So if you guys have any ideas, thoughts, or anything along the lines of Namira necromancy, I would love to hear them.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me, being a Dungeons and Dragons veteran, I played through a game years and years ago, shortly after high school. It's called The Age of Worms, and this is set, I think, like Greyhawk universe, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a new god who showed up. His name is Caius, and he is the god of worms, not unlike Manny Marco, right? But his whole thing is giant green worms. And he has his own. There's actually pictures of him if you look him up. Kyuss, Caius. Um, and if you look at some of the art on him, he's basically this giant, towering, cloaked figure comprised entirely of worms. And it's metal as hell. Um, and he has his own special brand of undead. I think like Caius spawn or something like that, or or rack spawn or something like that. And basically, these worms they latch themselves into the corpse, and they are what animates the body. So it is a
Sort of like
form
a
of
parasite.
undead. Kind of, yeah, parasitic zombie. Um, and yeah, so I mean that's kind of how I would imagine something with Namira would work. Is some kind of it's less about domination and more about leeching, or transpositioning energy into movement and action. Um, and actually, let me see if I can pull up an image. Caius spawn of Caius. That's okay, and it was Forgotten Realms. It's not Greyhawk. I was a little off. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here. Let's do this one. Do that. Okay, so let's see. That there was one. I mean, this is the image they have on the D&D wiki. Let me. Can I not? Okay, I need that. No. Okay, let's try spawn of Caius images. Let's do it this way. Here we go. Yeah, this is the image I like. Open image in new tab. I'll zoom in on that. So you can see he's got this green worm going in and out of his various orifices, and I think it's wrapped like around his spinal column, and it's just gross, right? And that's what's animating the body. Um, and then I mean Caius himself. There's some pretty. No, I don't want the band.
Yeah, that's all that came up when I did research as well.
Well, that's where they got the name, was from this god. Okay, let's get a higher, bigger image. Oh, here we go. This one's not bad. Open image in the tab. So you can see he's got his red eyes, and he's made entirely of worms, with a big cloak, and that's him. That's him as a god.
I love it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I think of when you're talking about Namira and necromancy.
Well, I've got a couple of similar ideas.
Yeah. Let's hear
them. Well, for some reason, I just constantly associate Namira with fungus. Mm-hmm. Probably because fungi grow on a lot of decaying objects and stuff like that. And there is a type of fungus, IRL, that acts basically as a parasite, taking over the brain of a host organism and essentially turning it into a zombie.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's the cordyceps fungus.
Would be pretty interesting. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So, something like that, but that is deliberately implanted into dead bodies, that you can then give instructions to this semi-sentient fungus or something. That I could see working for a Namira-based necromancer.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. I think both of those totally work and totally fit in as fair. I think that's the fungus as well. The fact that that's a real world thing. The fact it makes it easier to kind of transfer over as well. So yeah, I love both of those ideas, and I'm totally stealing them.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that fungus idea even more than the cayuse idea. If I'm being honest. Hi, Bill.
Hello.
And so, I mean, because with fungus, I mean, that's already a thing in the Elder Scrolls, right? I mean, Morrowind is made almost entirely of bugs and fungus.
And we even have a type of fungus called Namira's rot.
Yeah. So, imagine if
delicious.
I mean, and fungus is so weird that you almost have more freedom to play with it. I
mean, we're still not really sure if it counts as a plant or an animal.
Yeah, it's kind of its own sort of family in terms of taxonomy in real life. It's its own sort of thing. Yeah, so that's. I mean, does anyone else have anything that they want to add to Namira necromancy?
Well, I just wanted to say that there is a whole genre of fungus zombies already, which that would be pretty cool to add to TES.
Yeah, I was actually about to mention the cordyceps or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah. That was what Silence brought up.
Okay.
It's the cordyceps fungus.
Because I could see that as some kind of necromancy where it controls the host. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think in real life the cordyceps, its spores infect living hosts, and then it travels to the brain. Ants. Although lots of species of insect, and some arachnids too, can be each targeted by different strains.
I know there are parasitic wasps as well that do caterpillars. They lay their eggs in caterpillars, and then when the larvae hatch, they take control of the caterpillar and basically eat it from the inside out.
Yeah.
And eventually they come out and pupate, or whatever it is that wasps do. Mm-hmm. And while they're doing that, the zombified corpse of the caterpillar basically just acts as a guard for...
Well, and the thing with that is the larvae, they eat the internal organs of the caterpillar strategically. They do this almost calculated. So they'll eat the less important organs first, maybe reproductive organs or digestive tract first. They're going to leave the heart and brain for the last because it's going to live longer and provide more sustenance for the larva in that time frame. isn't that gnarly?
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it also just makes you think about how it evolved that way, where it just eventually the fungus or the parasite or whatever just learned that if I eat this part first and this part last, like over years and years and years of evolution,
Yeah.
they just learned to do that.
It's fascinating and brutal, and I think at one point I was looking at that actual breed of wasp, and I was trying to figure out how I could include that in the slowed lore, because I really like it. It's just brutal.
In terms of the slowed lore, there is a parasite which it infects snails.
Yeah.
It grows out of their eye sockets and it forces snails into the light, which then they get eaten by birds. The parasite then gets passed through.
Yeah.
I think that would fit slowed a bit more.
What's that, Silence?
It's some sort of parasitic worm, if I recall.
Yeah.
What was its name? I think it's like a flatworm or something, but
yeah, I don't remember. Sure. But yeah, it like gestates in the snail, reproduces in the bird,
and then know to do that,
and then from its droppings, which snails eat, they reinfect the snails, and and it just keeps going on and on and on and on. Which that sounds actually more like a periite thing to me.
I could see that.
Really, just because I associate periite with time and balance, specifically cycles, right? And he is the shadow of Akatosh and all that, and part of that is maintaining balance. And there is something awfully balanced about a cycle, and cycles are so huge in the Elder Scrolls that, it's only appropriate, I think.
I would be inclined to agree with you on that. I mean, I did, like I said, I felt like it fit the slowed lore a bit more, but actually thinking about it, periite, that's totally a periite.
Yeah. Now, I had a thought just now, because you're looking at necromancy from a different perspective. There's almost like there's a different school of necromancy aligned to a different prince. Yeah. So the stuff we see in ESO, that's all Molag Bal's brand of necromancy.
Yeah.
But then there's Namira's necromancy. So how many different forms of necromancy could we possibly conceptualize, right? Because I'm thinking, I think in the Eberron D&D setting, there is a type of undead called the Deathless, and they're undead technically, but they are brought back to life through positive energy. So they're zombies, but they're good, and they they maintain, they have kind of this grace about them, and they're not evil, and they're healed by positive energy, harmed by negative energy, etc. And so I like that, makes me like a Meridia kind of thing. Meridia necromancy.
Meridia actually did come to add reverse necromancy in the latest dungeon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like instead of reviving the dead people, she basically just strips living people of their free will and artificially extends their life by a lot.
Yeah.
So she's technically not breaking her no necromancy rule.
Yeah, see, that sounds deathless to me. So, I mean, what other? I mean, we kind of brushed across periite a little bit. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi.
And I meant what about Azura? What would Azura's undead look like?
I imagine that
for some reason I just think
Ash. I have an idea.
Creatures.
Ash, yeah.
I think Azura's undead would just be people who are basically flawless looking but have no personality. They just they exhibit perfect. I don't know. They're basically in love with her. They want to follow her around, just like all of the followers are described.
So kind of like a cross between the Imhotep zombies and the Mummy.
But imagine them being almost mannequin-like, they're that perfect looking.
But they're effectively in Instagram like cam girls or whatever. Yeah, they're Instagram zombies. They probably have roses growing out of them and stuff like that.
It gives a whole new meaning. Aesthetic.
That gives a whole new meaning to TV heads.
Just an army of Logan Pauls.
Yeah, no, that's
Oh,
that's
God.
awesome. I like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
another
We're
option.
gonna make that a thing.
A Logan Paul army.
Oh God.
Oh.
Another option I could see for Azura is the bodies of anyone whose soul is trapped in Azura's star sort of just follows around the owner of the star, just doing
That's-
whatever they instruct it to.
And they're just
almost
yeah.
like
totally
a,
enamored with you.
almost like a soul shriven.
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of. Okay.
Yeah, like
Well,
the body wants to reattach to the soul trapped in this essentially overpowered soul gem, but it follows the instructions of whoever's got the soul gem.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
One more. How about sanguine?
I was just thinking about
Just
that.
some drunk bastards.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, people with hangovers
Richard.
are often referred to as being like zombies.
Probably just like his zombies would be people who are stuck in a perpetual state of like fiending
Yeah.
or like alcohol or any kind of like
That's why they eat
recreational
brains.
drugs. Oh yeah.
Dude, that's
They
great.
look like Keith Richards and Mick Jagger.
Oh boy.
Totally.
See, what's interesting is the more we talk about this, the more we kind of blur the line between like literal zombie and like a metaphorical zombie, which
Yeah.
I feel is incredibly appropriate for the Elder Scrolls because we're always blending metaphor into things and we're kind of pushing those limits, and that's cool. Okay, so that was a fun conversation. We'll have to come back to that some other time.
Oh yeah, totally.
So Connor, we talked a little bit about Edmund's topic of choice. Is there anything that you would like to linger on for a moment?
I mean, you know what? Yeah, okay. So basically, there's recently been this whole debate over like if Ald Anu and if Anu is really a thing, who is really the dreamer, blah blah blah. There's basically been a whole lot of wanting to reinvent the wheel in regards to just. Oh my god, I didn't even.
That's a funny way of putting it.
Oh, Lord.
Nerd jokes.
But yes, in regards to like typical lore. So I guess that's just something to discuss.
Okay.
I don't know, I didn't
So
come with homework.
just so you kind of want to talk about Ald Anu or Anu all caps, the dreamer, and attitudes about that. Is that kind of what you're driving at?
That's a good, more direct topic. Yeah.
Okay.
But just in general, like people have been trying, like questioning the lore, but specifically that one has come up very recently.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, as far as I can tell, I'm the only person I've ever seen who has written something specifically exploring the dreamer itself. And there were two lore essays, one that I authored by myself, and the other that I co-authored. And the first one was Dreams, Perceptions, and Other Philosophies, where I talk about the lens of perception idea. And we have different dreamers. And, okay, well, if we're looking from one dreamer's perspective, what does he see, what's over here? How is that going to be reinterpreted that way, right? But then if he looks over here, is that going to be interpreted differently? How is the dreamer going to interpret all the information coming into his mind or being communicated to him from these other two potential dreamers? And that was really what that essay was about. But then in the second one, the transubstantiation of Anu, Manifold the Fray.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was Mac McGee and I were exploring the possibility of the dreamer being a transgendered woman, trying to come to terms with her identity, and reaching heaven by violence, or that kind of thing. Like that's an allusion to Anu trying to commit suicide, because the suicide rate among transgendered individuals is so high that, okay, well, maybe that's what we're experiencing right now, is the fever dream from that suicidal state. Maybe it's a failed suicide, and this Anu survived, and in the surviving, she has accepted herself, and really it was more of a taking a piece of literature, in this case the Elder Scrolls, and reading it from a specific lens, which is something that happens in like college English classes all the time. When I took college classes on like Victorian literature, we read a lot of Victorian literature from a scientific history perspective, looking at all the things about phrenology and mesmerism and reflexology and all of these kinds of things. Oh, where is this exhibited in this text? What is it the author's saying from this lens? And so that's what that was. But the whole point was to kind of think about the dreamer himself or herself or whatever. I don't necessarily think that that's absolutely who the dreamer is, but that's definitely one way we can look at the Elder Scrolls as a whole, as a metaphor for
dream.
As a metaphor for this person going through their own character arc. So it's all one big story, and it's maybe it hasn't ended yet. And I mean, I really went off of like Coda and things like that. I think the biggest piece of evidence we used was Vivek, who is considered the magical hermaphrodite, is effectively the dreamer's self-insert character. If we accept the idea that Vivek attained Kim and became the godhead, or became the dreamer Anu, then it makes sense that Anu would project himself or herself into this character, who would then experience the dream as a way to sort of deal with their own internal struggles, right?
Does that
think you
imply
sorta
that
missed out.
What's that, Tiffany?
Does that apply? Does that imply that Amaranth is essentially coming out and being reborn?
It could. I mean, I think what we were going for was, and so Vivek only ever appears as masculine up until the end of Coda,
Yep.
where she becomes a woman during the wedding with Jubal. At that point, when Lorcan's heart is healed, Akatosh is set free, the dream in the House of We has begun, that is the dreamer accepting herself. And she goes, okay, you know what? I'm a woman. This is me. This is who I am. And I'm not going to be anyone else to please other people, which is what Talos represented. This masculine ideal. Oh, this is who I'm supposed to be. This is who society wants me to be. This is my self-insert of who I feel pressured to be. And so Vivek and Talos have some interplay there. These two different identities, one perceived and one actual, kind of mingling with each other. What happens there, And I mean, it was largely experimental, but that's the only thing I've ever really seen about the potential identity of the dreamer. And so, because this is something I've written on extensively, I mean, this is kind of something in my wheelhouse. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. But I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to say or talk about on this subject.
I remember, sort of related, but I remember I pissed off a few people in the UESP Discord. Oh yeah. I think
we gotta steer them somehow. Like, I feel like they're not lost. Okay, they're not lost.
Yeah. I think Jack actually witnessed this, but I said that like there was a high possibility that the Clockwork City is basically just Supercill's suicide machine. And they got really pissed off at me. And I was like, well, I mean, seeing how reflective it is to Anu's like
it's a means to an end.
Yeah, it's a means to an end.
Yeah, a lot of people in the USP thing did not like that at all.
No,
Yeah,
they don't like anything that doesn't fit with their preconceived notions. And
I can
they,
imagine that
well,
would rustle
I
some
think because
jimmies.
they wanted the idea of
I
sort of
imagine they're history majors.
yeah, so that would be good.
if they're majors at all. I'm an English major, or I have a degree in English education, and my minor was in history education. So like
Oh,
writing
right.
and history, like those
Perfect.
are my things, and those have served me really well in this community.
I'm
But
an English philosophy guy. So I kind of got to run away from the history smarts sometimes. It's just too much. But I did take like this stray anthropology class, and that really opened my eyes a lot.
anthropology is
cool.
fun. But Belle, was that all the idea, or did you have more you wanted to say on
No,
that?
that was basically it. But I
Oh,
was just saying that it's kind of reflective of what I feel like Anu's purpose was too, as a means to an end. But yeah, because you were talking about like the idea of like failed suicide and stuff like that, and I was like, I said that one time in UESP, and it caused a stir.
Yeah, and I mean, who really knows? Felix Masias, who wrote Aria, and he's pretty much my go-to guy if I want to know about Red Guards or Yokuda. I go and I talk to him because he knows his shit. He suggested at one point that Anu or Aldanu achieved Amaranth through violence. That's why the term "reach heaven through violence" is continually present in Anu's dream. It's because that's how Anu did it. So it makes sense that the people within his dream would think that same way, right?
Mm.
But then Vivek finds another way, reach heaven through love, and then that's how the new Amaranth is birthed. So, I mean, if we're thinking about the methods to achieve Amaranth, I mean, do they change from dream to dream? Do the same rules apply from one to the next?
I feel like there might be a constant, but it can vary in how that constant is achieved per the dream. So, per to say, if your universe is a song, that's still a lesser form of dream, if you will.
Mhm.
Or if, like,
Yeah.
say, your universe is a book, that's its own sort of dream that's been clipped and edited by your own Akatosh, in a sense.
Yeah.
It's, I feel like there's a approach this if we try to approach it from a creator's perspective rather than a player's perspective. But bridging the player's perspective is like bridging the Lorcan to the Akatosh. You know, it's sort of weird.
Yeah.
I feel like if the duality of those two perspectives has really been the creative wellspring of it all, which is great because the metaphysics clearly use this as a metaphor.
Yeah.
I think the violence is crucial to the achievement of that metaphor within the realm because it sort of connects to purpose as to why people play these games. We want an outlet that we can be aggressive without any real world repercussion, right? But if we
That's
go
true,
into
yeah.
the world of bits and codes, there are little digital repercussions to our save games that happen. There are these little flaws that occur with every single like missed cut that we put on the floor, you know, like it's funny because there is an interactability with the world that the metaphysics can speak to us through.
Mhm.
And when you can properly harness that medium, it does become something I think we can call magical.
Yeah. Well, so, see, what
But
that
yeah.
makes me think of, and I mean, this is the first time I've thought of describing it this way. I find that when I'm trying to explain dreams and how open and malleable and constantly changing and infinite they are, right? Anything can happen in your dreams, and I fully subscribe to the idea that the dream is a simple dream. It could be your dream, my dream, it could be anyone's dream, but because the mind is so powerful and so much can happen within the confines of your skull cavity, right? That all the metaphysical stuff can still fit in there. You understand it, right? So why wouldn't that have an effect in this particular dream? And I
Dibella
mean,
could make it so, technically alone herself, so you're correct. I mean,
yeah. So I mean, and we don't remember most of our dreams anyway. So what if this is a dream that isn't even being remembered? This is just the mind's active imagination, and you know, as REM sleep is how the mind and body repair themselves. You know,
Yeah. Unity of mind and body.
and so the analogy that I'm kind of leading up to here is that, I mean, you're talking about the imperfection of like video games, and you know, the little repercussion. Like, nothing's ever perfect, but your dreams are the most perfect VR system ever, right? You
If you can
are
tap into lucid dreaming,
yeah.
like I've literally tapped into lucid dreaming once, right? I saw this weird geisha no play, and then afterwards I decided I wanted to go to Yokuda, and guess what I saw in the distance? I at least saw Strauss Mackay. I swear to God, I saw the towers in my dreams. It only lasted for a few minutes, but I could shape it for that sweet few minutes, and it was the most amazing thing ever. I never forgot it.
Yeah, so
It's
I mean,
possible.
and that's what I'm talking about. I mean, maybe, you know, when we wake up, we lose a lot of the details, and things kind of stop making sense after a while. You know, the longer we think about it, the more it kind of slips through our fingers, and we lose all the details of that dream.
Yeah, that does
That's
make
like
sense
Tylenol
in the
going
way
mad.
that, well, I mean, there's like multiple timelines and there's conflicting, information like in regards to test lore, and it's probably because uh, it wakes up like you're dreaming and then it's redreaming, like it's forgetting information and then learning it again,
Yeah,
just trying to like patch it back together.
or I mean, even on top of that, if the dreamer, whoever the dreamer is, you, me, and Jim down the street, if they have an understanding of quantum mechanics, could that not impact the physics of the dream space, right?
Probably.
And I mean, this is a crazy argument I had with John Burnson, super huge bro. He and I were discussing logic in the dream, and he said, "Well, no, logic is logic. Logic is always absolute." And I was like, "Okay, but what if the dreamer doesn't understand logic? What if they operate so often with logical fallacies that in their mind, in their dreams, a logical fallacy seems perfectly reasonable to them? Would that not then, for the people inside the mind, would that logic not then track for them as well?" Right? So how can we necessarily use logical arguments in this fictional world where the laws of logic are dependent upon the mind dreaming them?
Well,
I
that's
think
the
the
thing.
logic stops at causality, because with causality we can see a stimulus and response relationship that's very much akin to how the brain learns through operant conditioning. We can compare the condition of a new trauma being trying to solve itself through the memory patterns, the memory tests that dreams usually give us. What they try to do is they try to give us to trigger some sort of emotion, some sort of response that we cultivate through our own VR, as you put it, in our head. And when we trigger the right response, there's a good emotional resolution. We waking up feeling refreshed. If there's a bad response to that, then what happens is you usually feel like drained of sleep. You wake up, you had a nightmare, maybe a night terror will trigger. It all depends on what's going on in that cocktail of your brain right there. And I feel like people are onto something when they try to start defining a news trauma.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that we need to start focusing on.
Yeah, and Belle, what were you gonna say before I chime in again?
So I'm trying to get back on my train of thought. Oh, I think like it also depends on the Godhead and what kind of information it's able to retain. Like our world has a certain set of laws and physics, but how much of that would I be able to remember when I'm thinking up a new world? Because I'm not the creator of this world, obviously.
Yeah.
Who's the creator? Like technically, who one person would be considered the creator of such a gigantic effort?
Well, that's the thing. Is that
are you talking from a meta perspective? What are we talking about here when we talk about creator? Are we talking
from a perspective?
Yeah, I mean, Are we? Sorry, Belle.
Sorry, go ahead.
Are we talking J.K. Rowling, or are we talking the Aristotelian unmoved mover? What are we talking about when we say creator? Right? I feel like the Elder Scrolls blends the two, and that's where we get the dreamer.
Yeah, that's why it's completely defined by the dreamer. But
Yeah.
like, that's how you know how things aren't consistent.
Yeah.
Is because the dreamer isn't always going to have all the information.
Yeah. So you mentioned ethos a minute ago that the Anu's trauma, and I think this comes from an MK quote, and I think he clarified at one point that he implied that the annotated Anuad is a piece that the earliest part of its narrative predates the dream. Specifically where it talks about, and then Anu hid in the sun and slept. That was the beginning of the dream that you're in game. And that the trauma there was the death of Nur, or whatever Nur was a stand-in for in the Elder Scrolls cosmology, right? And I mean, there are a lot of ideas about this. I mean, I presented one of mine. Some of it relies on like Freudian or Jungian psychology. Others not so much. I've heard. I mean, one of the more popular ones I've heard is that Nur was Anu's wife, like it says in the Anuad.
Yeah.
And that she died either because of Padme, Anu's brother, or because of, and this is the one I like a little better, that Padme is actually a scapegoat for the bad parts of Anu's psyche because
Yes, I love that one.
Because he beats his wife and he killed her himself. And so he goes, no man, that wasn't me that did that. That was the devil on my shoulder. That's I'm not like that. I'm better.
I didn't mean it.
Yeah, something kind of like that.
That
kinda
goes along the lines of
Like-
what's said in the Truth in Sequence.
Yeah.
Love the Way You Lie, featuring Eminem.
If we
I don't know.
extend that further, that means
Back
that Anu winds up killing or attempting to kill all of his children and winds up successfully killing 10 of them.
If you follow Dark Brotherhood lore closely, I can see you saying that that's a divine story. I mean, but it always seems like everything was always some kind of fragmented facet of a many-faced event,
Yeah.
that we're
so-
trying to interpret.
Hold on.
Sequence-
I'm gonna pin that for a second. Connor, you were talking there about the 10 children. Are you talking about the offspring of Vivek and Molag Bal and how
I
Vivek
am talking about the 12 Worlds of Creation as mentioned in
Gotcha.
the annotated Anuad.
Okay.
So it's mentioned that the 12 Worlds of Creations are destroyed. There's only 2 survivors, and they're the offspring of Anu and Nirn, right? Or
Yeah.
Nir, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
if that means that Padme is Anu's dark side, that means in his struggle with his dark side, he attempted to kill all of his children, which makes this even more dark. Oh boy.
I think you're onto something here. Because now my wheels are turning. And
Well, do you remember that giant spreadsheet that I worked out with the enantiomorphic flips?
I don't think I ever saw that.
Oh wow! Okay, well, that's a little bit much to start now, but I'll show it to you later. But basically, I have it's kind of watching the flips between different Rebel King and who's the witness, different
Who's in the seat?
One sec. I have it pulled up in another tab.
Link
Oh yeah, I have the
in
different
Discord.
King, Rebel, Catalyst, Witness, and like the after effects on the Witness and the result of Clash. It's an interesting document.
Yeah, link it in the Discord channel because
Sure.
I do want to see that. But something that occurred to me because I assumed that you were talking about Vivek slaying the offspring between he and Molag Bal. So, and I don't remember how many children there were, but
Were there thousands?
I have
No,
I
something
seem to remember
brewing.
that there were thousands.
I don't. Well, but there were like a specific number. I want to say like 8 of them. I don't actually remember. Like the Ruddy Man was one of them. The carapace worn by the boy, and he wanted to scare the people in Nisus, and so then Vivek had to go kill him. And then City Face is another one. And then there's Felix. Hey, we were just talking shit about you.
Why was I being denigrated?
I was talking about your idea of reach heaven through violence and then reach heaven through love.
Guys, hold on.
Well, that's not really strictly my idea.
Oh, I figured that was part of Arya. But anyway, yeah. So I mean that strikes an even clearer connection between Anu and or Padme and Vivek, does it not? The slaying of one's own children, right? And then the Night Mother too. But then that's down to 5.
That's why I'm gonna tie it into something when you're done there.
Shit, we're on to something here. I like it. Go.
Okay. Oh, me?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you guys are talking about Padme being the sins essentially of Anu, then is Sithis basically the manifestation of that acceptance? And is that also like why you see in anything that worships or venerates Sithis? It's like you have the Dark Brotherhood, which is like the accepting of sins, and like they take it upon their own hands to commit these atrocities, basically because they're blessed by Sithis. And then you also see the Argonians, who see Sithis as change, but can it also be like a living in the now? By it's easier to ask for forgiveness and move forward than to look upon your past, sort of thing. And then so that also ties into Night Mother.
Yeah. Oh man, we're going down a rabbit hole today.
Who do you believe the Night Mother
also,
really is?
I mean, going along this like train of thought, the Night Mother could be a manifestation of Nirn or Nir accepting these things, or
I kind
just
of like that.
his
That's what I was trying to
idea
get
of
at
that.
earlier. Yeah.
Asking for forgiveness.
That's kind of
by-
fucking dope. I'm not gonna lie. That the Night Mother could be a facet of Nur having accepted what happened.
or just Sithis just trying to recreate her memory. And
Oh,
venerate
man.
His memory of his daughter, maybe.
What? Okay. Remember in Black Mirror, there was that one episode where the Peggy Carter's like boyfriend died, and then she ordered like a robot replacement of him.
Oh my god!
But
Yes.
it was
That.
imperfect.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Night
Come
Mother.
with me if you
baby.
want to live.
I need to watch Black Mirror.
You do need to watch.
Okay.
You haven't watched Black Mirror?
No, I have not.
Oh, yeah, you need to watch Black Mirror. Watch all 4 seasons, and then you need to go watch Love, Death, and Robots because that shit is sick.
All right, Andrew. Quick question, no judgment. Are you drunk and/or high right now?
Neither actually. I'm
Oh,
just
okay, you're just-
extremely enthusiastic right now.
Okay, all right. It's a little weird. All right, I like
High
it.
off life. He's
No,
getting
I-
his impact high.
I know it's 420, and I live in Washington State, so weed is very easy for me to get. But
Yeah.
no, I mean,
You're in good shape by now.
I'm half a beer in. Like I'm
Okay.
I'm
I
fucking
had some cider. I
I'm
had some
dry
cider.
as a fucking priest right now. Like
I had some wine with dinner, and I had a rum and coke before that. So
now, had you asked me last night, I had 2 glasses of mead and then a really hefty beer that was darker than this, blacker than my soul.
Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, that's some spicy shit. I like
And
it.
back to our usual segment, drinking with Andrew.
Yeah.
I should
yeah, no,
write
that's
something about
yeah.
that.
that's I'm always like it's
There
because
was
We don't
also-
even know what you're drinking right now, or did you already?
Something
go through
else I
that?
was thinking of
I am-
earlier.
Hold on,
Oh yeah,
quick-
what are you drinking?
quick aside.
Yeah.
I am drinking a Wrecking Ball by Northern Lights Brewhouse. It's actually just down the street from me. This is an Imperial Stout, 9.5% alcohol, 100 IBUs. This is my absolute favorite beer, and it's local. It comes from my hometown of Spokane, Washington. You're welcome.
Nice.
If you ever see it, pick it up. Like it's lovely. It really is. And they
We've
have
got a lot of
sometimes they have a barrel aged version. I had one time. It had mint in it. I almost shit my pants. I mean, it was my birthday, but
The sheer enthusiasm on your face there when you mentioned the mint in the beer was just beautiful to see.
I'm also a beer nerd, so like I'm a nerd in many. As my wife says, I have many fingers and many nerdy pies. That's
So let's talk about beer and Tamriel. Let's talk about the lore behind
Yeah.
that.
well,
Oh, that's a
I
good
want to
topic.
because Ethos asked a minute ago, who do you think the Night Mother is? And I'm really fucking digging on this nerve thing, but up until this point, and maybe after, I don't know. I believe the Night Mother is Mephala. Because if you read the book Fire and Darkness, it talks about the division between the Morag Tong and the Dark Brotherhood, and it implies that when the Tribunal took over, the Morag Tong began to venerate Vivek. So the Mephala you're talking to in Morrowind, when you take her quest at the altar in the Morag Tong Sanctuary, that's actually Vivek you're talking to. That's not actually Mephala. And so the Dark Brotherhood, they remember who their Night Mother is, and they venerate her, and they hate those who have turned their backs on her, which is the Morag Tong. So
Right.
they are not the
I mean, once I started playing Morag Tong and Balmora, I had the heebie-jeebies that Dark Brotherhood wasn't really led by Mephala, unless she was trying to make the Morag Tong stronger,
here's
which that
the
clearly
thing.
wasn't the case with how history came out. So
the two
I mean, it
factions,
just didn't seem like her.
the two factions are practically a war, right? Constantly
Right? Why
killing
would
each other.
yeah?
Well,
She'd rather just pluck it out
is,
herself.
Mephala is the prince of deceit and murder.
In a way, though, like
Is that not how
She's
she
like
does
breeding
things?
too much and then taking them away. I mean, that's always
See,
been
what
her
I
thing.
think happened is Mephala got in too deep when she was doing that, and now that Vivek's gone, she has to just pretend to be both sides now.
that'll work.
That's totally how she does, man. She doesn't give a shit. Yeah,
Grade A spooky.
kill each other in my name. Do it, bitch. Like that's
Okay, so she's the
mean-
honey badger,
yeah.
essentially.
She
Oh,
didn't care.
God.
Yeah, she.
Yeah, we already know that the Daedric princes don't really care
Oh,
about
they
shit
don't.
like
They
that.
don't give a shit.
They don't care.
Like Prometheus, like kill your
Hey,
friends. Do it.
Malakath cares.
Yeah,
Malakath
Malakath.
cares about me.
Alright.
Yeah. Ish.
Malakath is the big burly daddy that everyone secretly wants to take care of them and tuck them in the
Notice
night.
these
Malakath is my
Yeah.
big burly daddy.
All right, so we're calling Malakath Daddy now. Okay.
Okay. Pro tip: I don't know if you've watched some of the other lore casts, but we refer to like half the gods as daddy of some
Yep.
kind. We refer to
Yep.
Numidium as grass daddy, Malakath
No.
is pork daddy.
So
or
the
green
Scylla's
daddy.
brass daddy.
He's the daddy of mysteries.
Yeah, he's the daddy.
All right, sorry, yeah. Sorry.
We-
So this
we
was
were-
Vivek
grass
is
daddy.
zaddy.
We referred to Mehrunes Dagon as the annoying little brother one time because he said to Molag Bal, "Mom says it's my turn to play with Mundus."
Oh.
You guys remember that? That was good times.
And Padme was like, okay.
I remember a conversation like that.
Yeah.
I just remember the one with Almalexi, and it's like, "Hi, mom. Hey, mommy. Mommy. Hey, how's it going, mommy?"
Hold up. I really like the idea of Mehrunes Dagon as the younger baby sibling coming in and fucking things up,
Well,
given,
that's what he is in the Khajiit pantheon. Mehrunes. He's
Everybody loves an
clumsy
underdog.
kitten.
See, here's the
He's
thing.
he's the
Molag Bal
guy.
invaded Nirn way better than Mehrunes Dagon did. His invasion lasted 4 years. Mehrunes Dagon's lasted a month before being stopped.
Because Molag Bal
I don't
was
know. You
looking
can't
for-
beat that dwarven miter. That's a pretty classy miter. It has 3 eyes, people.
Oh, but see, Maul was doing it with the intent to dominate. He was there to just take, okay, you're mine now, whereas Marin Zagon, his goal was a little more nuanced.
It's more general.
It's revolution. He wants
Yeah.
to.
I've always been a Boethia fanboy myself because there's always been a bit more thought into that kind of revolution. You know, like there's always been some sort of upheaval of the whole system with that.
Yeah.
And there's a system of honor to it.
Like, okay, I would say, like, to put it bluntly in the most basic bitch of terms, Molag Bal's invasion was like Stalinism, whereas Mehrunes Dagon's invasion was more like classical Marxism.
What?
What?
Molag Bal's
I would think
vigorously
Chinese
shaking
Cultural
his head,
Revolution.
That was, I mean,
But-
Molag Bal's playbuild was his first Animal Crossing game, and then Mehrunes Dagon came along and erased it and started a new one.
here's the thing. Gaia Alata was a communist paradise.
Just achieve time, and then you can turn him into a floppy doll. Okay. That's
So
all
we're
I got.
seeing Maureen Zenith.
Kim, my bad.
Maureen
Yeah.
Zenith made his own communist paradise.
Yeah, it's a communist
Chime
paradise.
Kim.
Perfect. It's very equitable.
Yeah, I mean, you've got people roasting underneath, right? And then you've got paradise on top. That's
So, in other words, in other words, you're fucking welcome.
Okay.
See, but here's the thing: you see the start and end of the Oblivion Crisis throughout the entire game of Oblivion. Molag Bal actually has 5 years of work put into his.
Yeah.
Whereas whereas Mehrunes Dagon just kind of threw things at Nern and hoped it sticked.
That's how he plays his Animal Crossing game.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm liking this metaphor.
Let's table that for a minute. We can come back after we've run out of shit to talk about. I've got another question here. I've had this since before we actually started streaming. But I wanted to get through some other stuff first. So Silverama asked, could the Stone of Snowthroat be Dragonrend?
No.
That's what I was gonna say, but I wanted to get other ideas first.
I don't have enough knowledge to decide one way or the other.
Well,
I would say maybe.
Maybe.
Like, okay, so initially when I was starting to get really into the lore and everything, I thought that the stone wasn't so much Dragonrend, but it was the Time Wound, which cast Alduin out of place. And so only by fixing the timeline, by ultimately banishing Alduin and thereby negating the effects of the Time Wound, you eliminated the stone. That made a lot of sense to me at the start. Then a man named Evan Smith came into my life, and he started talking about Plato's The Cave.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michael Ziegler said, okay, no, go read Shore, Son of Shore. And then Todd Darmath chimed in and said, do it, you piece of shit. And so I did. And so I read both Shore, Son of Shore and Plato's The Cave and the allegory of the cave. And I'm like, wait a second, that actually kind of makes a fair amount of sense. I'm still not completely convinced.
I'm going to pause you there.
It does make a bit of sense.
I'm going to pause you there, Felix.
All right.
Show of hands, although there's only 4 of us on cam. Who doesn't? Do we all understand the idea of Plato's allegory of the cave?
Yeah.
Do we all know what that is?
No.
I need a refresher.
Okay. So I'll lay it out here. So Plato's allegory of the cave. I want to do it.
Fine. Okay. Jesus.
So the allegory of the cave.
Which did you go in the tower or did you go in the fort? That's the cave, buddy. Just saying.
So the allegory of the cave is you've got 3 men in this cave, right? And they're chained up. They're prisoners in this cave. There's a fire behind them, right? And there are things passing along behind them, and they see the shadows.
Yeah, there's priests moving.
Yeah. And so maybe there's some animals and things. And so these men, their entire existence is these shadows. This is all they know. They can't see behind them. They can't turn their heads. The shadows are it. Now, one man, he escapes. He leaves the cave, and he sees that the shadows
The real world.
are not all there is. These shadows are actually cast by something. So, oh, here's a rabbit that's casting the shadow. That's the real thing there, not the shadow like I thought it was. There's a horse, there's a bicycle, there's a house, there's a guy with a crazy mustache. It's, I mean, there's more to reality than the presentation, right?
What I wrote
And
about.
so he goes back into the cave, and he tells his other two former prisoners. He says, "Guys, you got to come with me. There's so much stuff out here. I mean, these shadows that you see.
No.
This isn't real
You can't
life.
leave.
This isn't all there is." And they look at him. They go, "Dude, you're crazy. Of course this is all there. What are you talking about?" They are so resigned to their ignorance, they won't even step outside of it. And so that is Plato's allegory of the cave. And what Plato was trying to say is that what we see in our real life, we are experiencing the shadows. What exists beyond that, beyond the expanse of our empirical senses, right? And so, this bottle. I mean, is this really a bottle, or is this the shadow of the bottle? I don't know.
Matrix says there is no spoon, okay?
There is no spoon.
There is no
That's what I wrote
spoon.
about
So
in
that's-
that thing where I was combining, where I was comparing Magnus with Hermaeus Mora, and like using alteration magic as a way to, like basically the Mage Light spell is using that as a way to cast shadows and finding the true shapes of things.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
I like that. So, Felix, carry on.
Well, no, because like you basically just said what I was going to.
Okay.
To explain it, but I guess what we can elaborate on is how that relates to that being the stone of Snowthroat, because Snowthroat is allegedly where Kine breathed the Nords into existence. And then there's also the competing story that the Nords came from Atmora. In other words, that's kind of more to them than just being these mortal, like, discount bargain bin Vikings.
Bargain bin Vikings. I want to make some popcorn.
All right, see you later.
Keep going. I'm still listening.
No, that's basically it. So.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think I started like a conversation a while back and discussing that I was like really into reading about Tibetan stuff.
Ooh.
And I saw a lot of the parallels between that and Falmer. And I was thinking of Snowthroat basically being like some kind of mountain that they would take pilgrimage to. And so I looked in the game and I realized that the Chantry has a really similar layout to High Hrothgar. So it has two circling staircases on each side, and then a centerpiece where there's usually, in High Hrothgar, it's just a little platform. And then in Chantry, it's the statue of Ariel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's a little area in High Hrothgar where it looks like there could have been a statue there, but I think that's where they put all of their like offerings and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this idea that maybe High Hrothgar was at some point a like a place of pilgrimage or a palace or temple of some sort for the Falmer. Yeah. And then it was repurposed by the Nords and then made their own. And they could have also done some sort of like monkey business dancing on the Akatosh Tower. They also could have done something like that and changed it to where the Nords came from Snowthroat and not Red.
Well, are you aware of syncretism?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, because like that could also be part of the case, right? Where a culture adopts into its own beliefs elements of a different culture, and they merge it with their own spiritual pantheon. One of the greatest examples of this is Santa Muerte in Mexico.
Also the Imperials.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like as a probably well-known example that everyone here knows about in some form is the real-world equivalent of Santa Muerte, which is clearly inspired by like an ancient Aztec god, but it's dressed up within the vein of traditional Roman Catholicism. So that could also be part of what you're saying. But it also made me realize something else, that really cool theory of yours, which is that Ariel is very close to Akatosh in terms of a subgradient. They're only one subgradient away. And Alduin is the Nord version of Akatosh, and he's kind of like this. Well, I shouldn't say kind of. He is definitely a bad guy. Whereas to the Imperials, Akatosh is like, oh yes, Akatosh is this great guy. Like we wield his banner. He's the protective man. Like, yeah, we love Akatosh here. And the North's like, no, our version of Akatosh like hates everything, and will eat up the world like it's an all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet.
Right? His whole purpose is to recycle. And
from a Ragnarokian perspective, maybe you could consider Alduin inherently northern, but Akatosh, I always associated him as like Alduin is sort of like a tale of Akatosh. She's always associated with end times and consumption. I don't even know why they really resurrected him for Skyrim. Apparently, it wasn't supposed to be time yet for the Kalpa to reset. I mean, a lot of people are starting to say, like, make up some theory. I've read something about him being greedy, overruling mankind, and running away or something. This started the Dragon Priest religion.
That also goes back to that, like, one time obviously this is probably not what it is, but like there's also the theory that Akatosh isn't actually Akatosh, but then we also had this long tangent about how we came to the realization that Akatosh in Skyrim is actually Manamarco.
King
I
of
don't
War.
know who all was present for that.
Okay, I dig it.
You remember that? Remember that, Andrew? When we were like,
I mean, I always imagined him with a shattered window, but that's me. I mean, you know.
Well, another thing I didn't quite get to that I want to elaborate on her theory was that she mentioned, doing the monkey dance and changing sort of their gods to make it more mannish in a sense. Snowthroat is a tower, so that is entirely possible.
The Maracati Selective.
But instead of the Maracati Selective, it's like the Nord Windwalkers or whatever.
Jurgen Windcaller.
Yeah, Jurgen Windcaller.
I mean,
Jurgen Windcaller is a fucking monkey.
The Greybeards is the Nord version of the Maracati Selective. we're getting
Greybeards. The Greybeards are the Nordic equivalent of the Maracati Selective.
Andrew, you're like a child. I love it.
Somebody better alert our favorite wood elf in Skinkrad.
Jurgen Windcaller was an Imga. It's canon.
Well, not necessarily Imga, but I mean
the equivalent of what
had the same role on a different tower.
Yeah.
That's fucking sweet.
Going back to the original question about whether or not Dragonrend could potentially be the threat, I said it maybe could be, because the way Dragonrend is typically understood to work is that it forces the experience of mortality onto an immortal being. And linking that sort of back to Plato's Cave,
That's true.
Dragons have an idea of what mortality is. They see other things live and die around them, but they can't experience it. Dragonrend would then be forcing them to leave the cave, see what it's actually like, and then letting them come back if it wears off.
I dig that.
Yeah, it is.
Could maybe work.
Alternatively, I'm gonna use some of Icefire Warden's stuff here from Anuvanasi. Big long.
Need to read that.
Yeah, that thing's so fucking long.
It was a good read, but
I love you, LJ, but that shit's long. So, in essence, what LJ did is he talked about. So, do we all know the relationship between Magnus, the Leaper Demon King, and Marin's Dagon?
Yes.
Not really, no.
Yeah, they're the same thing.
I've been told about it. I'm not sure if I believe it.
Yeah, so I don't know all the details because, I mean, we get into some Lig stuff here, and Lig is weird. The two guys who were given the blessing to continue the Lig lore train, they aren't terribly forthcoming with their information. So,
Well, you know.
yeah, I know them, and I've tried to ask, and I get inside jokes. So
I think I know one of them as well. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
yeah. So the idea is that the Leaper Demon King of the Seven Fights of the Eldudaga, he leaps from Kalpa to Kalpa. That's his thing. At some point, he gets taken by the Grabbers, who were told. I think Kirkbride pointed this out, that the Grabbers are the Magna Gi. Now the Magna Gi used Merun's the Razor, and they imparted their one asset, which is hope, into the Leaper Demon King, who is Dagon, to create Merun's Dagon. He is a prince of hope. That's why he destroys. He wants to create something better. He's hoping for that, right? And so part of what came off when they imbued that hope was Magnus. So, that's why Merun's Dagon's symbol is a rising sun. Magnus is the sun.
Yeah, the mythic dawn.
Oh shit!
Yeah, which has again more connotations to the Kalpic cycle and the dawn and all that.
Right.
So what LJ says is that Snowthroat was created when the Leaper Demon King, who is Magnus, leapt from Mundus, and it was still malleable and easy to shape. His jump off point formed that mountain, and that's where he tore through the sun. So the cave is really the sun, and Magnus is hiding on the other side of it. Not really experiencing reality, but getting his Elder Scrolls when Nemily comes to collect them. He has his Elder Scrolls.
To be twice sun-blessed?
Yeah. So that's what LJ's idea, Icefire Warden's idea is of the cave.
Also, I thought Anu slept in the sun.
Anu did, yeah.
Does he still sleep in the sun?
No, because technically that's pre-dream.
All right. Okay. Right. And then afterwards, he pulled Padme out of time with him. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, he slept in the sun, which I think the sun is a metaphor for something, because the annotated Anuad, which before Morrowind was made.
That reminds me of the Sky Father. I don't remember which Vodun myth, but there was like some guy who went sleeping in the sun. I don't remember which one. Goodness. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not really prepared for that kind of stuff. That's really esoteric.
But the annotated Anuad was marked at a pre-production, or I guess pre-distribution of Morrowind before it was finished. It was titled The Alien Bosmer, in parentheses, Creation Myth. Now, the Bosmers, we know in ESO, they have their spinners who use memory magic to peer back into the past. So what they can do is they can see before the dream. And so Anu hid in the sun and slept.
There's a lot of races that seem to like have some form of memory fetish.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, given the fact that memory is like she lives inside of Nern, if I'm remembering Coda right, it kind of makes sense that she would seep out into the races of Nern kind of thing.
Well, because memory is the memory of Nur, and Nern is what came after that. And memory is like water, or like like all the waters, right? So everything returns to memory.
No man steps in the same river twice. He's not the same man, and it's not the same river.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, I also like that.
Like I've heard that before, but I'd never thought of it in context of Elder Scrolls.
Well, why that's so important is he believed the whole universe was water. So, like, that kind of applies for the whole memory and firmament of oblivion kind of metaphor. There's others. Definitely other philosophers driven into the mythology and the lore. So he's not the only one there, guys. But yeah. Heraclitus is great. I love him. He goes well with Pythagoras because it's kind of like water Pokemon versus fire Pokemon.
Yeah. But then you give you Charizard Solar Beam and it's all over. I'm also a Pokemon nerd. Check it out. I challenge any of you. I challenge any of you to a Pokemon battle. I will kick your ass. I guarantee it.
I'm not sure how well the Pokemon
power
would
of my
do against
Pokemon. I believe in
Dunmer
them. I
betting
trust
rings.
them. We will totally win. They're not IV trained at all.
Imagine just what Dunmer would come up with animal fighting rings. I want to see those things fight Pokemon.
Well, there are actually Pokemon references in the 36 sermons.
Oh wow, that's insane.
Well, there's also the 3 chambers named after Pokemon when you're doing the Nevergreen prophecy.
Yeah, there's
Ursulaco. Okay,
yeah, one of them. There's there's Marowak's. Marowak's spine is actually in that's in the 6th house base when you go to it's north of fuck, what's it?
Kogaroon?
No, not Kogaroom. I can't remember the place. You go to, you infiltrate a 6th house base, and it's on an island. Narmok. I think it's north of Marnoak. Narmok. Up towards Karstag Point. I'm pretty sure it's yeah. I can't remember the name of it. Ilinibi? Is that it?
I don't remember.
But
Yeah, one of those is Marowak's spine. There's the something Kakuna in the what Felix is talking about, the Urshilaku burial, the tomb.
Lacuna?
Kakuna evolves from Weedle and then evolves into Beedrill at level 10. Yeah, man. I know my shit.
Okay, so basically, so in Illunaby, there's a section called Marowak's Spine.
Yeah.
In Arkanthon, there's Weeping Bell Hall.
That's it.
And in the Urshilaku Burial Caverns, there's a section called Kakuna Burial.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
And in Kogaroon, there's a section named Charma's Breath.
See, I never linked that to Pokemon.
Wow.
I can't believe I missed all of these references at the time when I was playing. I mean,
I believe I missed that.
I didn't even notice them whatsoever.
I noticed it, but I didn't know it was intentional. I still operated on the thing that coincidences exist. They don't exist. There's no such thing as coincidence here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then my new crazy heretical theory should immediately gain traction then, according to that.
Okay, hit me.
Dude, it's the one that I haven't shut up about, which is that Tall Papa is Trinimac.
Oh, okay.
There's if there's no coincidence, I'm like, okay, well then we look at the coincidences of how the death of Lorcan lines up in both places, and I'm like, well, that was Trinimac who did that shit. So what the fuck?
But
again, it's still not a finished theory, so I would say defend it yet.
I would say there's definitely a connection. It's really the details of that connection that are dubious, right? Because I'm not convinced that between 2 religions in the Elder Scrolls that there has to be a 1-to-1 ratio for everything, right? You can have, these 2 gods are a lot like this one god, or these 3 gods are these 2, or something like that. Like, things bleed into each other.
Yeah.
So
I'm still working on the theory because I'm not 100% convinced of it
does that a lot.
Sorry?
What does that a lot?
Oh, I was just saying, syncretism does that a lot. There's a lot of repeating myths for different gods and their companions and different circumstances that repeat the same themes over and over again throughout Proto-Indo-European culture, especially. And I feel like, Elder Scrolls is really good at capturing that aspect of our history that it feels connected, but in ways that we've still yet to uncover. We're still trying to figure out how deep it goes.
Yeah.
And that's part of the mystery of it all.
Which, I mean, the cheater path to take, for me at least, is, well, these are all parts of the same dreamer. So, of course, they're connected. Everything's connected. It's all one mind trying to make sense of itself.
Synaptic.
Yeah.
Who was it, Andrew, who posted in the dream sleeve that each of the different gods are actually like a function of the human body?
Was that you, Ed? No, that was Jordan.
Okay, it was Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan did that. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that was actually in Elder Scrolls lore. He didn't do that in Dreamslave.
Oh, okay. But yeah, that blew my mind. I was like, hey,
Yeah,
wait a second.
I was like, that's fucking sweet.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
And then he broke it down.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that, because that shit's dope. And I didn't give it as much time as it deserved. Let's see. I want Elder Scrolls like this. He had this whole diagram and everything, like it was bitching. Here we go. Yeah. So the systems of the body. So we got the endocannabinoid system, the respiratory system, digestive system, endocrine system, exocrine system, sensory system, renal, nervous, reproductive, cardiovascular.
Yeah.
So that's 10. Muscular and lymphatic or immune system. That's 12. Okay. So he's got 12, and they broke it. And the meme I put, or the GIF I responded with, made me laugh. So let's see. He said for Fenzies, he said that those were the 12 worlds of creation, is what he said. That's what those are. There's 12. So the endocannabinoid system, that's the hist. The respiratory system.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. The respiratory system, Kinnereth. Digestive system, Akatosh. Endocrine system, RK. Integumentary system, that's Nern. Sensory system, Dibella. That makes so much sense. Renal system, Zenithar. Nervous system, Julianos. Reproductive system, Mara. You could almost interchange Mara and Dibella.
What about rheumatic?
Rheumatic. What did he put? I don't know that. Does it have another name?
Oh, I don't. Good freaking question. I should probably know that at this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure because it has 12 systems of the body here. I don't see a rheumatic though.
Okay. Well, maybe it ties in with the endocannabinoid system.
Tendar?
Maybe.
Quite possible.
Well then let's just call it the green.
Connor's falling asleep. Good night, Connor.
I have this theory about the hist and the green.
Then
So the cardiovascular system is Shazar. The musculoskeletal system is Ifray. Earthbones. The lymphatic and immune system is Stendar. And the magical system, which is the 13th, is Magnus. So like he created a 13th one. But yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting to think about it.
I like the hist as the endocannabinoid.
As the endocannabinoid.
Yeah,
it's pretty
sending out
dope,
different
right?
chemical signals to address different parts of the body and make them do what they need it to do. Yeah.
Bill's
No, I think
back
that's
here
spot
in
on.
time to talk about how the endocrine system could be the hist. Or not endocrine, the endocannabinoid system. Yeah.
Get your systems right, Andrew. God.
Hey, that's a new one. It's okay.
Hey, dude, I'm a teacher, not a fucking nurse.
I'm a teacher. I don't know what to help
God.
you teach them.
I'm sorry.
I know how to use an EpiPen. That's about it. I
love how all of you guys are like professionals or like studying something, and I'm just sitting here just like I'm unemployed and homeless and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I feel so kind of out of place when all of you people are like professionals.
You belong
Bro,
here.
I have no proper like job as of yet. I'm starting to train to hopefully be a tour guide, but still, it's like.
Well, but you were teaching English in Spain. That was the coolest shit.
Wait.
Yeah, that was fun.
If we're talking, if we're talking about body systems, I have a little theory here.
Are you in school for the medical field?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
No? Oh, okay.
No, I was going
like
for
it might have been.
engineering.
Oh, okay.
No, I just deal with a lot of health crap, which my theory is there a correlation between dealing with chronic illness and Kim? How you basically have to convince yourself that either you're well enough or you're sick enough, and either way it doesn't matter, but you have to come to that acceptance.
Yeah. Interesting. Also, good for you going for STEM.
Yeah, nuclear STEM. Hoping.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see more of that.
It's good money.
It is.
It's really good money, and it's something that's hopefully going to help the future of the planet. So it's a lofty goal, but it's a goal.
That's awesome.
Maybe I should get into that.
Yeah.
So,
hey, for a 2-year degree, you could be making $70,000 a year. So.
That's not bad.
Okay, I am officially intrigued.
Now here's this. My little brother, he went to school for web design.
Mm-hmm.
He works for Zillow, the real estate company. Yeah. He works behind the scenes. He writes programs for the employees to help them do their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
$185K a year. Fuck you. I'm so mad at him.
That's fuck you money for sure.
Yeah. He just bought like a house and it's nice and big. And I was there a couple weeks ago. I was like, I fucking hate you so much. I'm a fucking teacher and we get shafted, but
yeah, but
that's also because you're American. So
it's because we're American. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a fact.
But anyway, I mentioned I had a theory about the hist and the green. I wanted to maybe share that real quick. Anyone familiar with Yggdrasil, the world tree?
Yep.
Yes.
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Well, mostly.
Here's what I'm gonna do.
It's an ash tree.
Let's see if I can Yggdrasil.
Yeah, people always confuse that. Think that's a yew or a pine.
Image.
So
Let's see.
There's a lot of funny comparisons I've been making about how Odin might be a living representation of Yggdrasil becoming a man, which is symbolized through his hanging ritual, of course, which is, of course, another monomyth that we see throughout several world religions.
Okay, so here
I'm very compelling. But yeah, I love the Yggdrasil stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. So let me share my screen here. Okay, so I've got Yggdrasil here. I'm gonna present everyone so everyone can see it. So we got Yggdrasil right here. This is a symbol of, it's got the Celtic knots and everything. It's pretty dope. Now, what happens if we turn it upside down? The leaves become the roots. The roots become the leaves. Hist, green.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, actually.
Yeah, so
I'm down with it.
The hist and the green are intimately related because they are the inverse of each other.
There is a deep connection with the underground, the roots being flipped. That's always represented the
my microphone is off.
Oh.
And the hist always have emanated that sort of feel for me. The dark, the underground, the shadows, the buried. They're all associated with that. So it would make a lot of sense for that sort of inversion, especially if you go into the monomyth and see the symbolism of Atakota. It sort of also has that same exact imagery to it.
Yeah.
Hey Andrew.
People of root.
So, you know what's at the bottom of Yggdrasil, right?
Roots?
Hey.
Well, I mean, like, what's in the roots?
Oh, Needhugger. Needhugger, the dark dragon that keeps devouring. Let me turn.
What's at the top? What's at the top of Yggdrasil?
Fruit.
An eagle. So there's an eagle at the top and a dragon at the bottom. What's typically representative of the Thalmor and the Altmer? An eagle, right?
Well, there's a squirrel.
What's representative of humans?
Or Kinnereth.
What's representative of humans, though?
Yeah.
You get Akatosh and Alduin.
Tava. Ratatoskr is Akatosh.
Yeah, but like, if you have the representation of the Mer, which is the eagle, on the top, and then you have the representation of the humans, which is the dragon on the bottom. What happens when you flip that? So like, it can go either way.
Yeah.
This depends on which one favors
Holy
more
shit.
Anuic or Panomic.
That's an enantiomorph without an observer.
Yeah.
We don't know
Wait,
which
sorry,
one's
I
on
was
top.
busy typing something. What's the enantiomorph?
Therefore, uncertainty.
So I was talking about how Yggdrasil, right? We've got the hist on top and the green on bottom, and then you flip them. The green's on top and the hist are on bottom. And Bell pointed out that what's the dragon's name?
Nidhogger.
Yeah, Nidhogger is in the roots.
Yeah.
Okay, symbolizing men, right? Whereas
Dark Souls.
and also royalty because of Talos. Thank you very much. Whereas there's an eagle in the branches, which might be. I would imagine that's the green because the hist are so much more mannish than Murish. So there's the eagle. What's the eagle's name?
I forgot what the eagle's name is. I can look
Okay.
it up.
Well, there's a nameless eagle. And so
crap. I'm supposed to know this one.
When you flip them upside down, like one's on top, the other's not. So man and Mer, we're adding a man-Mer dichotomy there. We don't know which one's on top because it is an unresolved enantiomorph. There is no observer to pick which one is the winner.
So how are we including Jormungandr into this? Given it's supposed to be the serpent that wraps around the middle of the world.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Vedrfolnir is the name of the eagle, I think. What was the question?
Middle run. That's Lorcan. Maybe? Part of the world and all that?
No, is Lorcan not the squirrel thing that's climbing the tree? I can never remember.
Yeah. He's the one who goes back and forth between, let's just call it Anu and Padme, which is the eagle and the dragon in this situation.
Yeah, just like the squirrel.
Yeah, I think Lorcan being the squirrel fits more than Lorcan.
In Norse mythology, Vethirnolfnir, Storm Pale or Wind Bleach is an unnamed eagle perched on top of the world tree. Sometimes modernized as Vedrfolnir, Vedvolnir, or Vertherfolnir.
It's literally unnamed?
Yeah, there's a lot of eagles that they like to be ambiguous. Frasia's cloak, for example, the gods wear it to become anonymous birds of flight. There's also Thiazi the giant. I mean, there's so many different Norse references.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So they kind of like quantum uncertainty in the Norse as well. They use fjords to kind of represent that. It's super interesting.
I may have to do a little more research on this.
I used to be really big on it. I need to get back into it. It's got interesting.
There's some more development needs to happen here, I think.
Weren't we just saying that Skyrim has like the least lore, and yet here we are talking about all the Norse lore that's been introduced into?
Yeah, I mean, no, there was some lore there, just not as much.
I feel like a lot of the I feel like the Orsimer lore is probably more reflective of true Scandinavian culture, in my opinion.
I don't know much about Orsimer lore, so I can't.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, the Swiss are technically, Scandinavian descent. So there's a lot of like stuff you can find in their mythology that goes way, way back to the Finn and the Norse days.
So here's the problem with that. You kind of have it backwards. The Scandinavians and the Norse got their stuff from old Germanic tribes, not the other way around.
Yeah,
it's the Norse who are the adopters, not the Germans.
Chances are, I think they're mostly
area.
So would the Orsimer be like the Yayats or the Danes?
The Orsimer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they remind me mostly of Mongolian.
Shit, you know?
No, man, the Orsimer are more like Pashtuns.
Mongolians and Russian Siberians of the steppes.
No, there's a. Hang on. Let me see if I can find it and post it.
Yeah, do it. Meanwhile, I'm gonna refresh my beer. I'm gonna do an IPA this time.
Yeah, you could use more horses.
Yes. Wait. So where should I put it? Should I just post it in the chat here or in the main thread in the Dream Sleeve?
Do it in the Dream Sleeve so we can record it later. Because this chat doesn't get saved.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So hang
people
on.
can't see it too.
After I end the stream, it all disappears. So if you do it in the Dream Sleeve or in the Discord, we can find it again.
Hey, here we go.
Actually,
Hey,
speaking of, I need to look some stuff up.
bada boom. Hey, you know.
Hey, I'm a Lorechat. Let me say, creation, finger guns, good idea.
Say to me, Christopher Walken.
What?
They say to
Let me just
they
say.
say to me, looking, they say, "Can I get your autograph?" And I say, "How dare you speak to me?"
How dare you speak to me?
This is
Looking me in the eye like that. Get the fuck out of here.
I just want to say that your impressions of me are embarrassing.
You know, people ask sometimes, is it Christopher Walken, or do you ever run? I do run or jog occasionally. Wow.
Wait, shit. Okay, so you have several posts in here about casual lore chat. Which one do I?
Any of them, I don't give a shit.
Okay, all right. I'm just.
I have to
I don't even
spread
know
the
what
word,
that is.
or people don't show up.
All right. Okay, there we go. I put it in somewhere.
I'm like a fucking Jehovah's Witness with this shit.
Yeah, it's from a Tumblr called Starship
Somebody's
Agora.
knocking at your door.
It's part of a series,
Somebody's
and it
knocking
says
at
test.
your door.
The Orcs of Tamriel are straight out of Afghanistan. That's the title.
Yeah, I got 18 years of Catholic school songs in me. Don't try me.
Oh, dude.
I'm not usually an
That's
IPA
okay.
kind of
Real
dude.
Catholic, I get it. Or
Yeah.
recovering Catholic.
That looks like orange juice, but it's a beer.
Wait. Let me see that. Put that back up there. Can't see that beer.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's an IPA?
Yeah.
That's light.
IPAs don't have to be dark.
This is from
That's
Silver City Brewery in Bremerton.
I mean, I'm not judging.
Well, actually, no, it's called Tropic Haze, man.
It just looks like what happens
I like
after you
it.
drink an IPA.
I like the vaporwave kind of vibes it has.
That
Oh,
is
yeah.
pretty cool.
Vaporwave is okay. Yeah.
Na, 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 na.
Darn.
Cue the 98 startup noises.
Once upon a time, I could have just practiced my swords in peace.
I'm gonna listen to that now. A Floral Shop by Mac 420.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Oh,
What you're saying about the orcs earlier? We brought up something, but then a whole bunch of conversation exploded.
I guess.
Okay, so, who was it that wanted to talk about beer in the Elder Scrolls?
Here we go.
Yes, let's talk about beer
Oh,
and
yeah.
else.
Oh,
Real
hello.
subject.
Yeah. I mean,
better
we
to
know
talk about on 420.
we know that mead is very very popular in Skyrim, for example. Blackbriar Meadery. I'm sure there are plenty of other meaderies in.
Well, Hunting Brew's the other big one.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we don't really hear a whole lot about a beer. I mean, I know the Surly brothers out in
And Tamika.
in Skingrad. That's like prime wine country.
The Bretons invented whiskey. That's mine. That's my take on it.
There is famously Cyrodiilic brandy.
Yeah, Cyrodiilic brandy.
Yeah.
There's also Dagoth brandy.
Is that spiked with something?
No, it's just really, really aged.
Well, if there's Cyrodiilic brandy, doesn't that posit that there's Cyrodiilic beer?
Well,
I
Charlotte brandy is made in an offering to Sanguine, if I'm not mistaken.
I know. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it was last week or the week before we talked about like Dunmary spirits. So Flynn and Sujamma and Grief. Well, Flynn is actually a Cyrodiilic import. So Flynn is created in Cyrodiil and then imported into Morrowind. Sujamma is effectively a really strong like a sake.
Rice? Yeah, I was gonna say a rice alcohol, rice wine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
salt rice, I believe.
Yeah.
It's basically soju or sake.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Always assumed it was like fermented skethol.
I have a side
Which
thought.
I mean, Sujamma may be soju, and then fuck, what's the other one?
Grief.
Sujamma. There's
Grief.
Grief. There's another one. Mazte.
Mazte. Yeah.
Mazte is the sake, and then Sujamma is the soju.
Yeah.
Okay, so what in Elder Scrolls universe would absinthe be?
Oh, dude, that's
Something-
it's
the thing that comes from Sheogorath's realm.
I was about to say that's Bosmerian shit,
it's the
but
stuff
no,
that
it's
comes
not.
from the
No, it's
Argonian
definitely
stuff.
not rot gut.
What's that Argonian drink that kills anybody who is an Argonian?
Oh,
Oh man, I don't know.
Not hissed sap.
Sounds like my kind of drink.
To be fair,
Ouch.
Andrew, I would kind of agree that absinthe is Bosmeri, given the fact that traditionally absinthe contains wood alcohol.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that does kind of
I would
speak to
say-
Bosmeri taste to me.
Yeah.
What did
But
Green
that
Mountain
brings the
do?
green
But
pack.
then the green
Like,
pack.
yeah,
Yeah.
in relation to the green pact, wouldn't it have to be like fermented blood or something?
Well, I mean, they do have rot meth, which is
Yeah,
basically
that's-
fermented
rot.
like meat juice, which is gross.
So
I also like to think that they're more into like the animal made psychedelics. So I know there's a type of honey that you can find in like I'm looking at my map like it's the real world. Like in India, like northeastern India, that area.
So like bang?
Getting into like Thailand
Pakistan.
or something. Well,
Yeah.
Pakistan is to the southwest. That's that
Oh, my
little
bad.
chunk,
Yeah.
that little chunk of
I'm not
India.
thinking right.
But it's up in that like West Asian kind of
Oh,
area.
so Kazakhstanish. Okay, all right.
Something like that. There's a I watched this short documentary on YouTube. It was actually really fascinating. There's these bees that they go and they harvest pollen and nectar from these poisonous flowers, and the honey has psychedelic properties.
Yeah.
So
That's
so these
right?
these like nomadic people, they go and they harvest this honey at a certain time every year.
Why is it always the nomads? It's always the nomads.
Because
Because they
nomads,
know where all the good shit is.
yeah.
yeah,
And so they go and
really
they
forceful.
they use like fire and smoke, and they basically use ropes and climb up a cliff, and then they'll like gather the honey in like big chunks and giant ass combs of it, and you can eat probably a chunk about this big before you start
Why?
passing out. And it's strong stuff.
Challenge accepted.
In this video, this one dude ate like too much, and like if you overdose on it, like you get like limb paralysis and shit. Like
Whoa.
Uh-oh.
you can't walk, and then you get dizzy, and like
fun.
it looks like if you're not careful, it is not a good time.
So
Of course.
So I imagine that's something that
Like
the
salvia or something.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the Bosmer do a lot with honey, so they could have their own type of mead. Honestly, because mead is mostly just honey and then like yeast. And
So you're saying we make mead out of that stuff?
yeah.
I mean, would you
Is
be
that what you're
able to?
proposing?
Which I don't think you'd be able to do that. I actually looked it up. I wanted to know if mead could be made of that, and it's too toxic. The psychedelics in there, it turns back into a poison when you try to ferment it. So you gotta just have it as honey. And then there's also Yeah, and then there's also meat honey too. That's also a thing.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
create sugars when you smoke it.
Yeah, there's a specific breed of bee in like South America, and
Oh yeah.
they gather material from like carcasses, and then they'll go and they'll make honey with it. But it's actually toxic honey. You can't eat it.
Wow.
And so like it's like something like that. Like I imagine like Bosmer, they can actually digest it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't kill them. But other races, like, they can't do that.
Do you think you'd be able to get around the Green Pact by picking up like windfall fruit?
Actually, there is
Making
some
something like
lore on
cider
that.
out of that?
The thing with the Green Pact.
No.
There is some lore on that where Bosmer is rationalizing being like a woodcutter by only picking up debris that fell and then shaking that.
But see, here's the thing. This is how I would rationalize it, right? If it's part of the green ever, it is always a part of the green. Because even fallen foliage and fallen fruit, those end up joining the topsoil, and those become nutrients for more plants, right? If you take that away, you're taking away from the green.
Well, but that's also like dead animals too.
Oh, sure.
Guys.
Yeah.
Sure. So I mean, maybe. I mean, I guess it depends on how pious you are.
So that suggests there's a limited amount of green.
No, guys,
What?
there's a way around this.
What? You worship Herstein instead. Woo.
No, okay, just shut up for a second. I have two things.
All right.
Number one, imports are a thing that exist.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, fungi are not technically plants.
No, they're not. They're not. They're closer to animal.
Psychedelic.
Yeah. So kombucha is totally
Yes.
allowed.
Okay.
Which
It's
then-
also disgusting.
no, it
but-
is not.
No, it's not. I just drink
So
it.
It's
hang
like
on,
sad
there's
beer.
another thing, there's
I don't
another
like kombucha on principle.
Okay, you're allowed to not like something, but to just say
You can't
it's
be
bad
that
is
much
wrong.
of a hipster.
In any case, so to go back to what you were saying earlier, Andrew, about like drink and stuff. Apparently, Mazte is actually more like sake or soju, which is a wine based on rice, because Mazte is made from salt rice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Grief is more like a vintage brandy.
Mm-hmm.
Sujama is like, I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I think I looked it up. They don't actually specify what it's made with.
Well, Shane is made from comberry.
I'll just BS Keith all then.
And then
But,
Flynn is basically
wait.
whiskey. So
Yeah, and Flynn comes from Cyrodiil anyway, so.
Flynn is the dregs of Cyrodiilic brandy. The
it's
Imperials
it's like
accidentally
gin.
discovered that the Dunmer love it.
It's
so,
fucking
like,
gin.
They were like, fucking sell it to them.
It's
Something tells me it tastes a little
It's
bit
not
like
gin, it's
kombucha.
Oh, this is rough.
Has anybody had
That's-
kombucha?
Dunmer will love it. Yeah, I love kombucha actually. I mean,
I feel like both the Bosmer and the Dunmer are all about that kombucha.
yeah, for sure.
There's
All about
lots
the
of
booch.
fungus, but the Dunmer, like, there's a little spicy.
yeah.
I feel like that's,
Better.
they throw some spice in there and they go woo.
Tincture, yeah. Woo.
Yeah, it's like a kick in the head.
Refresh that palate.
Yeah.
So I found the drink that Argonians make, and it has, and it's literally translated as ecstasy.
Oh, like Odin, just like the word odor in Odin.
Wait. Okay,
Ecstasy?
so root beer used to be made from sassafras, which, if you know anything about sassafras, you can make MDA with it, which is a precursor to MDMA, also known as ecstasy, Molly.
Okay.
So there could be something
see.
to that. I like that.
So Argonians was drinking ecstasy
It's a-
the entire, all the time.
It's also
Back
highly
on-
carcinogenic, so
Y'all
that's
playing
why
with
they don't make
fire
root
right
beer
now.
anymore.
Same with Pythagoras.
Maybe that's why all non-Argonians die from drinking it. They get cancer and then they die. I mean, it doesn't say it happens immediately.
Yeah.
That's like my soul every time I have to read a Breitbart article.
Oh, yeah.
Now I feel like the Altmer, they're all about that fine vintage wine. That's
The Aurum,
like
right?
like reds all around. That's their thing.
I
haven't
would
read any of
definitely
the
hire an
Aurum, like-
Altmer to do my interior design.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
Just by
banker in
principle, as long as they understand the culture they're working with.
there's
What's
a
that,
banker
Mel?
in Oregon who offers you a bottle of Aurum, and she's kind of trying to butter you up. What is Aurum? What is that made of?
Huh?
Aurum.
Let's see. Aurum.
It's made out of Ethereum. It's
I
ground
don't
up and
see.
then dissolved in.
There is
whiskey.
nothing. I see
There's
nothing.
nothing.
I see the first result is Midas magic spells of Aurum at Oblivion Nexus. That's
Huh.
Oh yeah, I
It
love
doesn't-
that mod. That was a great
Oh,
mod.
and then
Let's see. What if I add
That-
bottle
that word-
of?
that word had to come from somewhere for them to put it
How is it
into
spelled again?
Somerset.
Oh, hold on. Okay, here we go.
AURUM.
Okay, so that the NPC's name is Tillenfire.
Yes.
She's a banker.
Yes.
Yeah, works at Element Bank.
Yeah,
Let's
and
see,
she's laying it on really thick. She
let's
really
see.
wants you
Another visitor. How
in the
exciting!
biblical sense. Yes.
Not to be rude, but you all have such fascinating turns of phrase. I absolutely love your voice, by the way. Could I listen? I could listen to you for hours. I have so many questions. Perhaps later at the end, over a bottle of Aurum.
Hmm.
So I wonder if Aurum is like Cabernet Sauvignon,
Yeah.
like Chardonnay. It's a Pinot Noir. No, this is an Aurum. Is what
It's not
this is.
A
Moscato. That's for
rich.
sure.
It's a rich red.
Yeah, something maybe for like a dessert wine or
See,
something.
but it isn't Alto wine white. And
Alto
isn't
wine-
Alto wine is
Alto wine, I think, is white. Like
So-
Ultra
the
wine,
whole
always to
obsession
me
with
that seems
reds
like
doesn't fit.
Chardonnay or sherry for me. I don't know why.
I like the idea that it might
The
be sherry.
Chardonnay.
This proves we really need a sommelier of Tamriel book or mini
Well,
piece.
I actually, where I work at, I have to know a lot about wines. I should write something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just think about the way they talk.
What if we made like an encyclopedia of Tamrielic alcohol? Like
Oh
like
yeah,
a,
it's like
or
some
a-
kind of lush, like
like
talking
a-
about it in like a really loquacious sense. Like he's just like, "Oh, this one was so great and
Like a-
wonderful," and he just uses all these adjectives and
yeah.
like a corner club's guide to
Yeah.
libations and
yeah,
I like-
it's just
I
like
like-
an excruciating amount of adjectives too.
Oh yeah. I like how they went about in ESO with Rigert the Brash, where they have a lot of his writings and things like that, and they make this freaking oath.
Oh yeah.
Although I have
he got
another
laid in
I have
Somerset.
another. Yeah, that's my theory.
laid in
Is
every
that
DLC.
his what do you call it?
Oh,
His
he did.
station is just him spreading his dick around Tamriel.
Rigert the Brash will save Tamriel and end the Three Banners War just
With
by
his dick.
having sex.
Just with
yes.
his penis.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's already convinced
Exactly.
the orcs. He's already convinced the Altmer.
Well,
Mhm.
all
See?
Winterwave was like, oh yes, come to my bedroom, man.
Exactly.
Damn,
well,
Jamie,
well, you know,
Jamie was
Aldmer
trying to
have
hide
wicked
it.
small dicks. She wanted a piece of that.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah,
All he got to do is find a Khajiit and find a Breton, and then he's done. He saved Tamriel.
You know why cats howl when they have sex? It's because they have barbed
Barbed
penises that
penises.
destroy the vagina and it ruins you for all the other cats.
Oh, Aura may
I love
refer
it.
that's
love
that
the
sounds
idea
like
that-
some cat cell shit.
That was a Dr. Tran reference.
Oh my god.
For those of you playing at home.
So it says aurum is the Latin word for gold.
Ooh.
So it is
Yep,
like a
AU
golden
is the
wine.
prefix.
I'm gonna suggest that maybe it's like champagne or
Okay.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah, or
champagne.
prosecco.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe
Yeah.
it's like a carver kind of thing.
I think it would probably be like a Pinot Grigio, just a really fancy white.
Yeah.
Or
See,
like a
I don't like
like
white.
a Mom Napa
I really-
Brut
I really
sparkling
don't.
wine.
I really don't like
Yeah.
white wine. I tried it last time I was in Seattle because it said that it was good to go with crab and
Oh, like a buttery Chardonnay.
It was not
Is
good.
it American white wine?
Yeah.
Because then it's going to be shit.
I mean
No offense to America and their wine.
California. I mean California's got some pretty good wine country.
Yeah, but
There's
the wines are
actually,
subpar compared to like
person.
France. and
In this
Australia.
state, Columbia Valley, if you head towards like the southern edge of Washington, there's a lot of great wineries that come out of there, and some of those reds are fire.
Hey, some of my favorite wines are from California and Chile.
Yeah, same here.
Chile
I heard
wines
there
are
was a
so
lot of
good.
fire recently concerning the California wine industry.
Get a little smoky flavor.
It was
I like a good
horrifying what happened.
I honestly get the feeling that one of these days the entire state of California is going to go up in flames, and people are just not going to know how to react to it.
I'd like that sucks. Natural is always really bad for state economy. I can always say that.
So
I mean, I lost my house in 2005, so it's just not cool. But at the same time, we do make jokes about it, so I don't know.
Well, if you can't laugh, you're going to cry. So
Yeah, it's a good way
Yeah.
to cope.
So you were talking about absinthe earlier.
Yeah.
Wormwood actually exists in Tamriel.
Yes, it
For
High
does.
Rock. High Rock.
But
High Rock's got the absinthe.
Greenboat, if you had like a distillate of Greenboat, which is a psychotropic drug that you can find in the Shivering Isles, I bet that would be. I bet what if people would like you talk to Oblivion Walkers and they go and they bring it back, and then they sell it, and it's like a really expensive, like what is absinthe? Is it like a wine or is it its own
It
thing?
is. It's like a spirit. It's a spirit, but the wormwood gives you a slightly, I wouldn't say necessarily psychedelic
They call
effect.
it the green fairy.
The green fairy, yeah.
So
and you got to pour it over a spoon with a little sugar on
Imagine
top.
though, where it's just like conjurers in High Rock, they have to go and bring the greenwood back and then start distilling it and then fermenting it.
Yeah,
and
so,
then,
so High Rock is all about absinthe and beer, right? Because they got those abbeys. They got monks like brewing beer. That's a thing.
And I bet like
secretly
brewing it. I bet like brewing it too also kind of cuts out, like they can actually isolate the negative effects and just make it almost exactly like absinthe.
Okay, now what about Hammerfell? Felix, what do you got?
In terms of drinking?
What do they got?
Well, canonically, it has been established that Stros Mackay has rum.
Okay, I figured rum was in there. I'm thinking like rum and moonshine, like that's.
Well, I also made ginger beer a thing in Aria, but I have no basis for it otherwise. I just thought, like, if we're doing Caribbean things, then that's definitely appropriate.
Yeah, ginger beer is awesome.
Does Hammerfell have a lot of cacti? Because I mean, like fermented cactus might be something.
Well, yeah. The other one was that there would be a psychedelic, which would basically be like mezcal or tequila.
Yeah,
mezcal for sure.
Yeah, I can see that.
They might with the old
and because it is also similar to like in parts of the region to like Colovia and High Rock, that there would be decent wine growing regions. So I could also see like various reds being created. I could also see cider being a thing.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And I can also see a form of like grape and apricot based wine that used to be popular in the Middle East and Iran. I could see that being like something that they would do.
That's fruit wines.
I'm trying to figure out where vodka would go.
Vodka.
I don't want to say Skyrim. That's
Nordic.
That's too on the nose.
The Reachman.
The Reachman. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's a good compromise.
Okay. What about ayahuasca? I know that's not alcohol, but it's a psychotropic beverage.
Elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean skooma.
I mean, moon sugar is more important for cultural reasons, but ayahuasca, they got that in spades.
So, a lot of.
I would have said Argonia, but.
Yeah, I mean, I see similarities between hist sap and.
I mean, they ingest hist sap as like eggs, so they're already high as tits. They don't need anything else.
I just love the idea that like 90% of Tamriel are either walking around pissed out of their brain or high as fuck.
Tequila comes from the Argonians.
Edna, what were you saying? I didn't catch that.
I'm just saying how I love the idea that like 90% of the inhabitants of Tamriel are walking around just either pissed out of their brain or high as fuck.
It's a rough life out there, you know.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah, totally.
So on a similar topic, where would the best tea be coming from?
I would say because you have to think about where tea is
Agave.
grown.
High rock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
High rock
I
and
would
Hammerfell.
say.
High rock
What?
and Hammerfell.
Well, no,
I would
no,
actually
no.
say probably the Colovian Highlands because tea actually needs like a little bit of high altitude to grow, and it needs to be relatively
maybe.
good humidity
You're thinking
as
like
well.
Ceylon, Indonesia,
Like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I've had like,
Morrowind.
Akavir.
well, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Agave.
Morrowind has
Probably
more of the
Agave.
like Indian wine, so like chai,
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
what they got there.
But they
Whereas
got it from Akavir though.
I
Like
like.
they got the idea.
I don't know.
Yeah, tea
I'm
comes from
leaning
Agave,
towards that,
surely.
and I'm gonna come up with some evidence to
Whereas-
support it.
Whereas Hammerfell, they've got this because like I've had like I had Syrian tea once. It was awesome. That's what they got in Hammerfell, and then High Rock and Cyrodiil, they can have like the Earl Grey and English breakfast.
Yeah, they have like the blacks, like the Earl
Yeah.
Grey English breakfast,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
The
but
proper
they co-opted
tea,
it though.
tea time and all of that.
and I think Hammerfell would like mint tea with milk and spices.
Yeah,
and things
I
like
would
that.
agree with that.
And
I
People in,
like that.
hot desert countries do tend to have mint in almost everything because
Yeah.
it helps the
I
food.
like the idea that Skyrim has embraced boba milk tea.
Oh
Skyrim
God.
weebs confirmed.
I have
Fair.
tried milk tea and I just cannot get in.
Sushi
had
is
it
already a
earlier.
thing in Skyrim.
Oh my god! You're
Yeah.
They
right.
use wasabi,
Right.
everything.
God damn.
Yeah,
I
The
do
Nords of the
find it funny.
Weebs.
I don't like agreeing with this, but I do. God damn it.
I do find it funny that Neloth mentioned canis root tea, but canis root, if I remember correctly, is a paralytic.
yeah. Oh,
He just
he's,
needs to
yeah,
have it.
he's
So-
too limber.
So I've just started making jokes that he basically likes having a seizure.
Well, the thing is,
Or maybe
you
it's not
can
control
have
over his
things
body.
like that.
Maybe
and
the
you can-
canis root tea is for a specific part of his body.
Oh. It's this little blue pill.
Oh,
No wonder he likes Ruben so much.
Oh, I can see.
know-
You know what? It's a localized effect.
Some fungus is kind of porous, isn't it?
Powerful wizard
boy.
like him needs a little lift.
I
no.
Hey, he's surrounded by
So-
Spriggan constantly.
Hey,
Okay, so if we ever get the chance to do an AMA with a dev, we have to ask about that specifically.
the Telvanni
'Cause that's-
are
Yeah.
Telvanni are very masterful with necromancy, and that's all about raising dead meat,
Raising bone.
raising them bones.
That sounds
my
like
God.
it'll really raise the bones up, guys.
Oh my god. What am I, 12?
I just want you to know you're all terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
We
man.
realized that long ago.
Casual lore chats, welcome, Felix.
Yeah. Well, it's not my first one. I think I've been
I
like
know.
this is my second or third, I think.
Oh man, you're a fucking veteran.
Yeah.
How many I've been to now?
Hey, in my defense, I'm with the lore casts that matter,
Yeah.
the selectives lore casts.
I'm not sure whether to feel offended by that or accept it.
No, I'm just kidding. I just
No,
want to
that's
get a
a
reaction from
compliment.
Andrew.
No,
There are moments when I'm listening to selectives, I just want to like scream something to chime in. Like,
yeah, I know. Well, no, I've said it before that this lorecast is supposed to be like entry level. Like, let's talk about the dumb questions or whatever. Like don't be afraid to come and ask stuff that you're afraid is silly and
I think we also come up with a lot more theories. Like,
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's essentially a
less
giant thought
concrete.
experiment.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're
Casual lore chat. The
Yeah, I
place
mean,
to
we're
talk
casual.
about Elder Scrolls Viagra.
Yeah, and then how and Alduin is secretly Manamarco.
Yeah.
And other conspiracy theories. I
Yeah.
like
And
it.
that's just a theory.
No, we do good work here. And then like the selectives is much more. I don't know. It's so much
I
more
feel like
formal.
you
almost.
you guys are actually like taking what I would say like cases in evidence and stating things that are more concrete And then we come up with theoretical
also
ideas.
we walk in there with a purpose too. So like
Yeah,
the last
you have
one
a topic.
the last one was the Riemann cast, and I was fucking useless for that one. But
I had a little
Totally
Riemann.
learn about that.
you
Damn
know,
it.
yeah, I mean we talked about
Riemann-
Riemann the whole time.
Riemann's
That's all we
great.
talked about.
What do you mean, me? I did most of the talking.
What?
In the Riemann Lorecast.
Oh yeah, I said I was fucking useless. I mean I was also useless for there was another one. I think. Oh yeah, the Dwemer one because we had Train Whiz.
Train Whiz.
Yeah, I was
that
gonna
was
say
like,
Train Whiz.
yeah, that was
I just-
basically
I just
all of
kinda
us just fangirling with Train Whiz.
Yeah, and then I've never been in one with Kirkbride. I want to get him in another one, but really that's Rotten Deadites thing. So he's the one who's got to do that.
Well, yeah, but like the thing about the selectives is that it's constantly changing. If you look at the people in like the first 10 episodes compared to the people in the last 10, it's pretty different.
Yeah, it really is.
Which I mean, I try to be consistent, and because I want people to you know, I mean I want people to have an expectation and have that expectation be met. So
Fair enough.
You know, that's
I basically just try and be a part of the ones where I feel like I would have something to add to it because it's something I'm passionate about or something I'm like well versed in, right? Yeah. Which is why I was like, oh, hey, yeah, I got to be there for the Hammerfell one, for the Richmond, for Riemann, for
my specialty. My specialty I've noticed is I'm pretty good at taking what everyone else is saying and then I reinterpret it a different way, and they go, huh. That's
my thing is that like I usually come at it from a writer's perspective. So like when I'm told like the basic facts of something, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like I just sort of memorize it. I don't really look too much into I guess like the concrete evidence behind like certain subjects. And I just sort of like
sorry, BRB, I gotta take dough out of the oven.
I hear it beeping. I like to construct my own things, and sometimes constructing your own things means to take a step back from what's already established. And so typically when I start talking about lore, I'll talk about like ideas or like alternate, you know, forms of describing stuff.
To be honest, I'm mainly here for the shitposts. Like the Elder Scrolls Viagra, it's great.
The shitposts are great too.
Well, unfortunately, Canis Root wouldn't work for that because it does damage your stamina.
Oh.
Although it does fortify one-handed, so
maybe
yeah, I was gonna say
he's going
he doesn't.
For, you know, a little snap.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna distill it into something else, does that really matter?
Yeah, like a mixture of Canis Root and say Scathrow. I don't know. What's a stimulant?
No, that'd be. I mean, that sounds like a good night, but what do I know?
Sorry,
I'm over here liking Bell's tweets about this.
Yeah. I'm having a little moment.
Yeah.
We should talk about the syphilis thing soon too, the Night Mother.
Yeah.
I'll tweet it. I'm on it.
We're at 2.5 hours.
I'll probably wait till tomorrow actually.
So yeah, I think I'm gonna kill it here.
All right.
Listen awkwardly to Felix.
Yeah. He could have muted his mic.
It happens.
Fine, I'm gonna do that.
Edmund,
I muted him.
Edmund, you and I are gonna have to hijack one of these streams to talk about the magic stuff we're working on.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I want to hear. I want to hear more of it. I try to pay attention to Discord, but I get busy like when I'm teaching and stuff. Like I can't check Discord when I'm teaching. And so
we can try taking over next week if you want.
The issue I have is the time zone differences.
Yeah.
I can't always guarantee that I'm going to be there.
Yeah. Well, and I may be doing these every other week moving forward, just because it took us an hour to populate this one enough to actually go.
Sorry, I got a new mattress recently, and my sleep has improved a lot.
Is it
No,
good?
Teamwork makes the dream work.
It's no one's fault. I think it's just a collective thing. We're I don't know. If we do it too much, then it stops making it special.
Yeah.
So I want it to be something that people look forward to, and oh hey yeah, I want to jump into this.
Well,
But-
really, if we're doing it every other week, that'll give Edmund and I a bit more time to finish everything off.
Yeah.
Because
So
I think mostly what we
That would be also a lot easier to like come up with something to talk about too. We can get some questions brewing and come up with some like cases or whatnot to go.
Because it would make it easy.
Yeah, we can come up with some things to discuss.
I actually had an idea for one thing we could come up with for maybe this or next time, which was Argonian naming day, and just some of the trials of their early stage of life would be cool if we could just get a short little focus on that.
Yeah. If you haven't already, before we get to that next time, go back and watch the selective Lorechat of the Argonians.
Sure.
'Cause I talk a lot about that kind of stuff in that one.
All right, I'm back.
But yeah, so I'm gonna kill the stream. So
I just got back. God damn it.
Well,
yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that it's going to end. I'm totally up for more.
It's been 2.5 hours that we've been live, so I think it's long enough.
And I will try.
3 hours, people not watching.
On average, people stop watching 16 minutes in. So.
Oh, that's harsh.
Well, in any case, Andrew, I'll try and
Somebody
get
call
more esoteric Hammerfell lore for Telemora, including the current one I'm working on, which is Telepapa as Dynamax. So.
That's the one that I'm not really that familiar with.
I've already got the cover decided for next issue. It's going to be pretty sick. I'm very happy with it.
Can you tell me if any of my stuff is in the next issue or no?
I don't know yet. I haven't populated.
I'm actually writing something.
I know what the opinion editorial is going to be. It's going to be a piece about how the lore community focuses too much on the esotericism and less on the nitty gritty. Hey, what are the traditions of these people when they eat dinner?
What kind of beer do people?
How does this 6-year-old boy live?
Yeah. There's less focus on that and more focused on the dreamer and Kim and the walking way,
and less on like physical.
You gotta kind of hide.
So
calm that down a little.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna be. That's what the opinion article is gonna be talking about this next issue. And so the cover I've already got. I know what the image is going to be. It's just the text I'll have to fudge, and then the date.
Are we going with the Dunmer girl? Or?
No, I'm doing the Bosmer.
Okay.
So Bosmer girl, nice close up. I already got the okay from the artist. See, the Bosmer or the Dunmer girl I may save for next issue. But
I totally think you should.
I've noticed I have a lot of attractive women on the cover.
Yeah, we got to start spacing that out with like.
Yeah,
Okay. So maybe not the next issue,
something
but
gender
the issue
neutral,
after,
even and then a guy.
Need, like...
Yeah, I mean, and in the last couple of times I've made an issue, I make a couple different versions, and I always save the versions I don't use. I have a little unused folder that I keep all the other versions. So. So maybe I'll find a cosplay image I can use or something. I mean, just because I didn't use one this issue doesn't mean I'll never use it ever again. So I mean, even next volume, I can use a different piece that I've already looked at. It's just a matter.
Do you need something Yokuden themed?
I mean, eventually, maybe.
Hey.
I was like, what's going to be the subject? Because I could probably find someone who has some kind of...
Yeah, well, when Felix finishes his, then I mean, I always want to have relevant art for each article.
Wait, what am I supposed to be finishing?
One of the guys you ran.
You said you were doing like stuff for Yokoda and Hammerfell.
I can't, but like, is there something specific you want me to do as opposed to like little fluff pieces?
No, I don't. You do you, Boo, and I will. I will work around you. Like that's how this works. I don't ever want people to feel pressured to do stuff, except for the editorial articles. Those are the only ones that really I get involved in. Everything else, like that's all you. Whatever you want to do. I mean, we'll copy edit it to make sure it looks and sounds good, and there's no spelling errors or grammatical errors, that kind of thing.
Oh, bitch, please! This is me we're talking about.
Oh, I know. And I mean,
that being said, I do make mistakes.
I was gonna say I would love an editor.
Yeah. But what were you saying, Belle? Yokuda, and there was an artist I talked to or something.
Yeah. So, do you remember the one we did Fanglair? Yeah, I know. Yeah, Zet, you actually had a couple of his artworks that you put in the. I think it was. I don't know if it was in the Telmora or if it was one of the. It was used for an image. He's okay with it. But you did use it before. It was like Dagoth and Akulikon in the background.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I used that for one of my pieces. I'm pretty sure.
Zed did that. He's our tank from Fanglair.
Yeah. I remember. He was funny.
I just posted some art in the Discord if we want Sexy Man made for one of the covers. It's not mine, but it was an idea that I came up with for Sexy Man made.
Yo, someone give me a dummy thick Cyrus.
Yeah, is that
yeah.
All right, I'll be on it.
Is that Grima?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. So, Zet changed his name on DeviantArt? Is that because it used to be a different name? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. That piece.
If you go to my thing, it'll be like right there. Like he's usually in the front.
Yeah. Yeah. That piece is fucking awesome. Like anything with like Dagoth or just looking like a badass. I'm pretty. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's got some pretty good, like, kind of like religious painting style, full pictures. You can
I like that kind of stuff. I like that.
He's usually pretty cool with like anyone using it.
There's another artist I've been checking out who does, and I've used a couple of his pieces. Does this almost like a Baroque kind of, like a Baroque or Renaissance style painting.
Yeah, that's what Zet kind of does too.
Yeah, and that's so cool. I love seeing that.
Oh, there's also the one that he won most popular vote for.
Was that the still one?
No, it's the one that has the Nerevar and he's like dying and the tribunal are all touching him in the place that they harmed him, basically.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, that one is a nice like format for a.
Images of the tribunals.
Yeah, I'll get this art into the look and I'll see if maybe. I mean, I'm not worried about next issue's cover until after this issue gets done. But
I was just wondering, like, if you're going to have like a certain subject or topic, I could.
I don't know. I'm thinking for the last one. I think I want to write the opinion article. I haven't done one for 4 issues or so. And so I want to do one just to finish off the volume. But I don't really know what I'm going to write about yet. I have some ideas.
Just get onto that alterations section for my piece, so it's ready
to I'll actually have something that's down the pipeline now that I could actually submit for once because I haven't written anything in a while. I'll probably have something here.
I've got. Let's see. Cultures are not one-to-one. That's a pet peeve I have. People are, Nords are Vikings. No, they're fucking not. I mean, they look like that at the surface, but that's not all they are.
I also kind of find that like there's something kind of like cringy about it or uncomfortable whenever people start comparing real life races to the Elder Scrolls and applying stereotypes to it. I'm like, maybe don't do that.
So maybe maybe like right now I'll think about something to write about. I have loads of opinions. It's just a matter of saying enough, you know. But okay, I'm gonna end the broadcast. So bye, internet. Thanks for hanging out. I hope
see you internet folks later.
I hope you liked our bullshit.
See you later,
There
Warcon.
There was a
Good
lot of
night,
it.
everybody.